heading into game number 1, Aiken playing for the Mandarin Duck squad versus minimoult21 playing for Hudson Bay BIGS. Right, now, first game seems to be, a different map than what we're used to. So first map is Manchuria, which in a lot of cases is actually a different order, but for now we do see four or Aiken, should I say, playing India on the bottom side. We also see minimoult playing Dutch on the top side. We're just going to stay with minimoult21 for now to see what his opening is, and it looks to be perhaps a forward, or should I say an early marketplace, going for 2 villagers on coin, 3 on food, also being very aggressive in terms of getting those early treasures with his explorer, as we can see here. Also loading up another few villages. I would assume 3 villages on the way, already pre-queued. One thing to note is sometimes you kind of look at the score and you think to yourself, oh, his score is quite far behind, but depending on how many villages he has queued up, it does take a toll. Marketplace is researching the hunting dogs, and if we head over to Aiken on the other side, we can maybe see what he's doing and go check him out. So he is playing India on the bottom side in the color blue. His opening so far, 4 villagers on wood, 4 villagers on food. He has 4 yaks as of now, which one interesting thing about the Indian livestock is that instead of being able to eat the livestock, you actually have livestock for XP, and you can see Aiken doing a really good job at getting those livestock animals out already. So he's managed to get a nice decent amount of livestock, also picking up a 50 food treasure as of now. And yeah, still got that even split with villagers, 4 on food, 4 on wood. And one unique thing also about India is that they do kind of bind villagers to that wood cost, meaning that each villager costs wood instead of food. You can see these yaks now gathering XP over time. On the other side, minimoult, or should I say on the same side, minimoult looking to maybe pick up a 20 XP and a 20 coin treasure, stealing it off his enemy, it seems. Also has that envoy alive. Dutch does start with an envoy, and you can just kind of see how great that envoy is. Already pretty much most of the map scouted, and yeah, now sending in the villagers. Age 1, 3 villagers on the way in his deck. Age 1, he does have the Bank of Amsterdam, also has Bank of Rotterdam, so these 2 cards do increase his bank limit. Has CM, or as we say, Town Militia, in his deck as well. And we're going to head over to his deck in a little bit, but I want to go ahead and look at some of the treasures that both players might be picking up, because this is quite huge, and early game treasures can literally be everything. And an early wood treasure for India could mean, that extra villager. Take off your villagers from wood and put them on food a little bit sooner, meaning a faster age up. So treasure is very important. And for now, we see like if you go to Aiken, we can see that he does see the explorer, but I think he's gonna go back for now. Has his other explorer kind of in the back line. One unique thing about India as well is that they do heal each other, so one explorer does heal the other. More yaks returning home safely, and yeah, bringing his total of yaks down to, or up to 7, should I say. So 7 yaks, very impressive. 5 villages on wood, and almost has that 800 food to age up. Very early age up, and I like this play by Aiken. You can kind of see he's baiting out his explorer, so he's kind of distracting minimoult here, whilst he does go for that treasure, which he definitely wants. Killing that last lion, and yeah, now gonna have enough wood to age. A little bit of over gathered there, I would assume. Maybe not. With that treasure, I think he's gonna have exactly 100 wood, which I guess can be used. Also sending in the distributivism as a wood trickle in age 1. And if we head over to minimoult, we can see he pretty much only sent those 3 villages and is now looking to age. So a bit of a fight going on here between both explorers, but I think Aiken is going to be safe. He's going to maybe just look to go back with his explorers and maybe just buy himself some time, so these explorers do kind of heal up when the age up hits, so they do gain HP. So if he's able to kind of buy himself some time here, trying to pull, it seems, trying to pull his explorer away, escape the snare of minimoult, but not quite working just yet. But will he be able to snare or free himself from the snare? And he does, escaping on 56 HP. Let's see over the other side. I'm assuming that both players might go ahead and maybe contest water, especially on the side of India. But for now, we see minimoult with 14 villages on wood, just looking to get that first bank up. So one bank does cost 350 food, 350 wood, and yeah, very important that you kind of get that bank up in transition, because the sooner you get your bank up, the sooner you have that 2.75 trickle of coin, meaning, you know, more money to spend on shopping sprees in Asda. Now Explorer, 32 HP, I think he might go down, but I also feel like it's okay because sure, the XP will be awarded to Minimoult, but at least his Explorer isn't going to kind of die halfway across the map. Forward aggro being built for Aiken in the middle of the map, and kind of suggesting that he might go aggressive, but could also kind of just make this aggro to establish dominance and just secure the map. If we turn on Aiken, we can maybe see how much line of sight he has in this area, and then later if we check, we can maybe see how it changes and just show you the strength of an early aggro. The Envoy now coming up for Minimoult, scouting the age up for India, which is very important, kind of telling him what to expect, and I just so fascinated by the amount of yaks he has right here. India might be looking to maybe pick up another treasure here. 75 food, definitely something that he might consider taking. In his deck, he does have the East India Men, which does give him a dock rickshaw, fishing boats as well, so kind of like a schooners card with a free dock. And then you also have the fish market, so a lot of fish boomy cards here. A unique card here is the Bombay Marine. All boats train faster and give more experience points, so not really a card you see too often in an Indian deck. Two Sepoy do come up from the age up, sending in 700 wood from his home city age 2. If you go to Minimoult, you can maybe check some things he's doing. First bank up transition, second bank on the way. Does have the 600, or should I say 700 wood on the floor, which he did send in as his first shipment in H2. Now building a barracks with 16 villagers, got his second shipment ready from this bank that he did build. You have to kind of imagine banks give a lot of XP. You can see 140 XP for a bank, and one unique thing about, I guess, a bank is that not only do they provide a large trickle, and of course it's pretty much your main assess point when we're talking about eco for the Dutch, but it's also kind of like a wall. And now that you see the Sepoy coming in for Aiken, you can kind of see that Minimoult, I feel like he left a gap between his banks, kind of just to force chokes and just hold chokes as well, and just make it really hard for the India player. But now we do see a nice push by Aiken, sending in those 5 Sepoy, also receiving the 2 Sepoy from his age up, and also of course training Sepoy as well from his aggro. I would assume that we see the 5 Sepoy also come out from the aggro, so going for a nice little push here. Something we see quite often with India, and yes, it's a very effective timing push, but you have to imagine these are just musketeers, so it's not like a hussar idol where hussar can kind of stay underneath the town center for long due to their high hit points. Musketeers do die fairly quickly, but one lucky thing for India is that he does have Sepoy, which do have very high hit points in general, so gonna be happy about that. But now Minimoult coming out with the skirmishes, having multiplies against musketeers of, I think it's 2 times multiplier on the side of Minimoult. Yep, a 2 times multiplier against these Sepoy. So with a 15 range attack, that is going to be very high, and you can just see the difference here in terms of damage output. But now Aiken looking to get close with those units that he does have. The skirmishers do have very low HP, so 180 on the Sepoy side versus 120 on the skirmisher side. And yeah, if he gets close enough, he's going to be able to do a lot of damage. Could even put the Sepoy in melee, which we see he puts 1 Sepoy in melee just to kind of snare onto these skirmishers and just kill them very fast. And yep, that's a clean wipe for Aiken right there, and he's gonna be very happy about that because now he's bought himself some time to kind of go back to what he was doing before, just idle a little bit more. And now third bank being placed by Minimoult, and also a house being built, as we see here, sending in the pikes as well as training more skirmishers and kind of ejecting a few villagers out on the field. Explorers on Aiken's side looking to pick up perhaps some more treasures, maybe just scout the map. Sorry about that. Did I hear a Miniman pop? No Miniman pop. But if we go over to Aiken, we can kind of see at the moment he's just kind of looking to see where these villagers are gathering from, and just reassure that most of the villagers for Minimoult are in the town center. And if you go ahead and check, you can definitely see that 18 villagers pretty much idle in the town center just before, and now some of them are still idle. Pikes do come out, which I guess as an interesting shipment. Pikes good against the sours, which you can kind of expect from India very soon. India behind this, 27 villagers, getting a villager for every shipment that he sends. And you know, talking about shipments, he's got these 7 yaks just trickling in XP this entire time, and he's gonna have a lot of shipments. Also picking up this coin treasure, I love it. very useful. Our skirmish is going to work on some of these sepoy, looking to do some multiplier damage and just kind of play their cards right from distance. They do have 20 range versus 12 range, so you can just see the 8 range difference is quite big, but doesn't have a lot of skirmishes to kind of kill these sepoy fast enough, and as a result, Aiken now just going to back off and maybe just look to remass with potentially some melee cav. Aiken now going for the civil servants, so this is a nice market upgrade which does upgrade his gathering rates for all of his villages, and after that you can also go for the imperial bureaucracy, which further upgrades them and just kind of improves your eco. And when you play Hausa, there's an Asia policy which kind of gives you the access to the India marketplace and gives you those techs. And the reason why I mentioned this is because the fact that a civilization has an age up to have the Indian marketplace just shows you how strong these techs are in the marketplace in terms of eco. Just really, really good. Like you have the hunting eagles and the wood upgrades and the coin upgrades, and then you have upgrades that upgrade all the gathering rates pretty much. So they just stack and stack and stack. So really, really good market techs for the Indian side, and yeah, just further kind of increasing his eco. But you have to imagine he is playing against Dutch, and minimoult with Dutch 4 banks up, looking really strong and actually looking to age here, sending in the 700 coin after, of course, those pikes. Did send the 700 wood bank wagon, then went for the pikes for some sort of defense. And now that he has defended his base, he's going to be able to kind of just sit back with those 4 banks and look to age. And 4 banks is very decisive. Sometimes you, of course, get lucky. If you don't get pushed, you can kind of make that 5th bank, but 4 banks is very, very decisive, and you know, a lot of eco there, 2.75 coin. And if you compare that to a normal villager on the Indian side gathering coin, you can just see the difference, 0.72. So like 4 villages almost. I think it's like 4.5 villages the worth of a bank, because they don't actually have to walk. Whereas the Indian villages, they have to walk from this coin mine to this coin mine, which takes time. Therefore, the banks just being better. Nice defensive wall being placed by minimoult. You can kind of tell that he might be sending in those 2 falconets, which actually he doesn't even have in his deck. So maybe just a defensive wall, so in case Hassad do come out for his opponent, he can kind of just walk between these gates and kind of just stay safe. Big push coming in for Aiken, and if we turn on Fog of War, we can maybe see what he sees. Now with the sepoy looking to do some damage, he does have the Sours in the backline, double batch of melee cav coming in, Hussars from the consular upgrade and the Sours from the stable. And now with the sepoy looking to just kind of idle, looking to just maybe do some damage, and yep, kind of expects Dutch to be aging, so he wants to just kind of do as much damage as he can before the H3 hits. And H3 now arriving for minimoult, which means that Reuters might be on the way, so he only has a limited amount of time to kind of do damage to these skirmishes before the Reuters pop, and getting an unfortunate pop on these or unfortunate snare from these pikes. But look at that big stomp from the explorer there, stunning all pikes, and the sepoy is gonna absolutely enjoy that. We saw the 5 envoys coming out for minimoult from his town center, training those just to give him that extra edge. And if we see what minimoult's sending, we see he's sending in the Reuters, 9 Reuters, as well as a batch of Reuters coming from his town center. And this is looking really good for minimoult, because not only has he managed to keep most of his skirmishes alive, but he's also managed to kill a lot of the melee cav, and he's still going. Pikes still killing Sours, Pikes still killing the Bostanchi, as well as the Reuters coming in from the home city and the stable in the backline. So kind of just bridging that gap with those pikes and the envoys. And now the Reuters are here, and pretty much all melee cav can, you know, say choose, because it's going to be over for them right now. They're not going to be able to do anything, and you can just see Aiken now going to back off, and he realizes there's not much he can do. And I'm not sure he's very happy with that one, because he didn't really do much. I mean, he actually just kind of killed units and didn't even take the best trade either. So it's kind of, yeah, really unfortunate for Aiken. And you can see he's falling behind in score. And not only is he behind in score, but now he's behind in age. And I think he's also stuck in age 2, as you would kind of expect for an Indian civilization, playing, you know, strong sepoy push in the early ages. And now he's kind of forced to, you know, train sepoy, maybe even transition to Gurkha. But it's going to be very awkward for him now, because these Reuters are going to come out like madness. You can see already massing up a very decisive mass of Reuters. You can tell 19 Reuters in the lines of minimoult right now with, you know, a limited amount of skirmishes in the backline, but don't worry about the skirmisher mass for minimoult, because he is also sending in skirmishes from his home city. So if you thought the Reuter shipment was kind of absurd, he also has 7-8 skirmishes which he can send, kind of giving him that extra damage in terms of light range infantry. And now India kind of just forced in H2, but one great thing about India is that they like to stay H2, and they also have access to skirmishes in H2, so they're very, very viable in H2. Still has that aggro in the middle of his base, and also building a dock as well. Curious to see if he sent in the East India men card. No, did not send that in. Just built the dock with his wood, which he did send in. 700 wood coming in, and actually cancelling his agreement with the Ottoman consulate, getting those 4 villages beforehand, and then of course transitioning onto the British. Also got those Hussar as well. I would assume, as we saw earlier, those Bastanchi from the Ottoman consulate. And now we could maybe expect some grey coats, I would assume. Or should I say some red coats? I always kind of mix that up. Yak still going strong, of course, and villages as well. 46 villages on the side of Aiken, and if we compare that to minimoult, we can see he's on 26 vills but does have 4 banks, and now looking to push this aggro, which is maybe something he can do. Doesn't have the best siege, but you know, surprisingly enough, see, skirmishes, even though they look kind of skinny and you know, kind of fragile, they actually have a decent amount of siege. 14 sieges, you know, not bad, because you usually make a lot of skirmishes, right? More skirmishes coming, I would assume, from these barracks, which we do see being trained. Therefore, you know, 14 siege on each of these 18 skirmishes is quite decisive. Also getting the gangster, but let's head over to Aiken and maybe see what he's planning right now. Sepoy is kind of getting into position, as well as these Bostanchi and of course the Sours, looking to maybe get a nice round on some of these units. And I'm curious to see how this goes, because of course, oh wow, nice pop with the Sepoy, putting most of these skirmishes in the melee. Beautiful snare there, and now coming from the backline with most of these Sours trying to get a good poke, and this could be really good, because not only is he fighting underneath the aggro, but he's got the Sepoy in a beautiful position, and they do absolute madness damage in terms of melee. They have 22 siege with 15 hand attack, and these Reuters only have 168 HP, so they will absolutely tear through the HP of these Reuters. But looks like the Reuters just managing to take out most of the Sours. The skirmishes all go down to the Sepoy in melee and in range, and all in all, this was a fair decent fight for, I guess, Aiken, because not only has he kind of bought himself some time, but then he's also denying a lot of skirmisher mass for his opponent, which is pretty much the only thing he's worried about, because Sepoy versus Reuters, that's something he's willing to trade, but Sepoy versus skirmishes is not so good, and now killing most of the skirmishes, he's going to be really happy about that. And one thing to note as well is that if he managed to kind of win fights in H2, or maybe even just 60-40 fights, he's going to be also in a better position in terms of food control, because eventually minimoult is going to run out of hunts, and you can already tell he's, you know, on one hunt here, he has another hunt here, but eventually he's going to have to roam out of his base and start going on, you know, ventures to find those extra hunts. And Indy can pretty much do this all day, because not only does he have hunts for days, but he's now going for full sea control, and this might be really good for him if this game does drag out a little bit longer. More Sepoy coming into melee, looking to get a nice round on the Sours, but I feel like there's a little bit premature. He doesn't want to lose that aggro, therefore kind of just looking to maybe defend it, but now might actually get a bargain that he's not willing to kind of accept, it seems, trying to kind of make this trade work, but I don't feel like it's going to work. Most of these Sepoy going down, most of these Sours now also dead. More Sours coming in the back line, trying to just clean up, and all in all, this wasn't a great trade for him. The first trade was way better. Maybe should have just lost that aggro fort, but kind of just wanted to keep it alive for as long as he could. But yeah, now paying the price of that defense, losing most of his army, and now it's kind of awkward for Aiken. He's still on water, but how long will he have until, you know, Dutch decides to push these hunts, these coin mines, and just kind of idle most of the land economy? And you can see now barracks, or forward barracks, being built, which is something he didn't actually have before. He was actually training most of those Sepoy, of course, from his Agra, so maybe he just didn't want to lose his military production building, which yet now goes down. 320 XP awarded to minimoult, and he's going to be happy about that, because he can now send in some of the stronger shipments. Also send in the 1k wood just previously, which I'm very curious to see what he invests that in. He could maybe make more houses, you know, that 5th bank, which could be nice, and could even stack that with some of his age 1 cards, increasing the bank limit. Now with the Reuters burning down this barracks, which was just built, and I feel like this is a little bit of a mistake by Aiken, kind of just building that barracks in a very forward position. is sometimes you just slam down a barracks wherever you find, you know, is most comfortable to you. But then now he just built this barracks, wants to train units from it, but it's already going down again. So just 200 wood pretty much deleted there. And very common mistake that you see a lot of players do. And ideally, he should have built this barracks over here. And yeah, now you can see he's doing exactly that. 59 vills, of course, with a lot of boats. So 8 boats, sending in the 2 caravels, kind of preemptively trying to defend most of his sea that he does have on Manchuria. If we head over to minimoult, we can maybe check what he's doing. Getting the cavalry chorus from his arsenal, so this will increase the range of these Reuters, if I am not mistaken. So you can maybe tell they have 12 range at the moment, 16 damage. Now they have 14 range with 18 damage. So not only increasing the range, but also increasing the damage of these Reuters. Very, very nice card, or very nice tech to get on these Reuters. So very nice play by minimoult. And now pushing the base of his opponent, but look at all these sours with, of course, the Miniman pop. And this might be good for, this might be really good for Aiken, getting a nice snail to these Reuters. Now with all of these red coats in the backline, doing some damage to most of the units. And even if trades kind of almost equally here, I think he's going to be very happy about that, because that is time that he will have. But now with the cavalry chorus on these Reuters, they're going to be a little bit more deadlier, and also a decent skirmisher mass in the backline, and pulling ahead 6k in score on the side of minimoult at the moment. And looks to be almost clean wipe so far. Might need to kind of back off with those skirmishes and kind of abuse that 20 range difference that he does have when fighting skirms versus musketeers. And all in all, fair fight for minimoult, but looked really good for Aiken there. But just H2 India, not as strong as of now, but you know, if he managed to buy himself a little more time, I think he can kind of mass up that army that he's looking for. And ideally, he would like to train Gurkhas. I feel like if he would start training Gurkhas, it would be a little bit better, but maybe just fearful of those Hussar, which eventually could come out from the stable of minimoult. Speaking of minimoult, he is looking to shut down some of this water that Aiken does have, is shipping in the frigate, H3 coming in, so I have to tune in and see what that frigate does accomplish in the later stages of the game. Now with the Reuters and the skirmishers burning down the stable of Aiken, and another huge blow to Aiken. And if we kind of go and check his resources, you have to kind of imagine, not only does he need the wood to train boats, but he needs the wood to train villages, and now he's kind of needing the wood to train military production buildings. So his wood toll is taking a very large hit at the moment. It just needs a lot of wood to kind of keep up with everything that he's doing at the moment. And he's also training from a double dock, so to make things worse, yeah, all of these buildings going down is going to affect him a lot. And wood is yeah, something that he's going to need a lot of right now, even sending in the foreign lodging in the early stages, as we can see here. So not only does he have the small wood trickle, but he has the large wood trickle as well. So a 1.25 trickle and a 2.35 wood trickle. Villagers out on the field, very exposed here, looking to maybe seek refugee in this, you know, nice old fishing boat. But you have to imagine these Reuters could, I would assume, one hit that fishing boat. Are we gonna see a one hit here? Aiken, are you okay? Oh my god, all of the villagers in the fishing boat, 5 villagers in the fishing boat, looking to go down. 6th frigate taking out the last of the fishing boat villagers, and of course the other villagers going down to the skirmishes and the Reuters. That is very unfortunate and really you know, bad timing for him. The frigate couldn't have come in a better timing, and yeah, most of those villages now going down, and big win for minimoult. And I don't think he kind of expected to get such a great trade, but gonna be happy and is definitely gonna take that. But India's still going strong, 60 villagers out on the field, and now going for a counter raid himself. And we talked about the hunts of minimoult eventually kind of being depleted, and now he's forced to kind of venture out onto the map and look for some of these more forward hunts, which can be punished quite easily. And even though he does have great coats, you can see these sours are doing a lot of damage. But look at this, the Reuters in the backline, so mobile, 7.25 movement speed, are going to be able to maybe take out some of these sours. But Aiken just so clutch here, bringing his main infantry army with him as well, which of course will kind of scare off those Reuters. And we see a little bit of a fight going on. Skirmishes versus caravels, not something we see too often, but he does have the frigate in the backline. But the defensive dock is there for Aiken, and he's going to be able to idle some boats and kind of just use this dock to kind of give him that bonus firepower against this frigate. But will it be enough? I feel like there's very smart play by minimoult, but a lot of different things going on the map. A lot of raids coming in handy. Reuters all across the map. The halberdiers out on the map. The Reuters out of position and now faced up against a lot of sepoy. And if minimoult's not careful here, he might just get melee. Woof, that was close, almost getting melee there by those sepoy. That would have been terrible for minimoult, and you can see Aiken just trying to outplay his opponent, distract him, buy himself time, but you know, this frigate is just kind of being so annoying, idling all of these boats, 8 fishing boats in the TC. The frigate just also killing that caravel. Not really much that he can do. Still has that land eco going strong, which is very fortunate, but also lost a lot of villagers prior by the shoreline of Manchuria. So very sloppy game as of now, and it's kind of a, you know, you need to have a strong mentality right now, because there's so many things you need to be aware of, and everything can really just turn for both sides. If most of these Reuters go down for minimoult in Sepoy melee range, it's going to be horrible for him, and it's going to give Aiken a lot of time. But now these Sepoys going down to the skirmishes, which is kind of unfortunate, and now Aiken kind of forced to commit here. Maybe just going to scale off these skirmishes, so these Sepoy can kind of just walk away. And yeah, good little bluff there, kind of almost looking like he was going to commit, but actually just trying to scare the skirmishes off. Let's head over to minimoult as we do catch a little bit of a break here. We can tell he's got 2k coins stacked up as of now. Does have a dock on the way, training caravels, has a fair decent amount of wood, sending in the skirmisher attack card. We can also see a lot of different cards being sent in, Cav HP being the last card he sent in, picking up some villagers on the, you know, far side of Aiken. And yeah, maybe gonna maybe drop down an arsenal, or sorry, an artillery foundry, and train some cannons just to deal with the Sepoy a little bit more effectively, or maybe just make some more Reuters, or maybe even go industrial age. I think everything is possible. 10k score ahead as of now, and the skirmisher mass looking very decisive for Mini, and Aiken still stuck in H2, can't really age up, needs to defend his base, needs to find a way to kind of, you know, push back the army of the Dutch player, and yeah, looking to do so now with the Red Coast and the Sepoy moving up, putting most of these units perhaps in melee range, but the skirmishers, great micro from minimoult, just putting them behind the Reuters and looking to just do as much damage as he can. But this is going to be a sticky fight. Miniman has already been called for Aiken, so no Miniman to kind of help him out of this situation. Gurkhas are being trained from the barracks, but a little bit too late. Another 5 batch coming out now, as well as another batch of Thowers, and all in all, Dutch is doing so much damage, also getting these strong arsenal techs, as well as we can potentially see, does have the CIR, the counter infantry rifling, which does give him an additional multiplier on these Sepoy, as well as the cavalry cuirass, giving him bonus damage and range for these Reuters. So really nice play by minimoult, and maybe that extra edge in this last fight it seems to be. And I say last fight, but I mean, now that Aiken has full water control with those caravels, it seems kind of scaring off this frigate. I think he might have a small window here maybe to do something, but if we look at the score, you can just see he's 10k score behind, and you have to kind of ask yourself, where's his mentality at the moment? Like, what is he thinking? Is he just ready to kind of go for the long run, or he's just thinking to himself, this is way over? And now losing his barracks, might lose his second barracks, and when Dutch is under your barracks, it's very hard to kind of mass up your units, because every unit that comes out of the stable or the barracks will instantly lose HP. And you can kind of see he's stacking up for an age up, actually now only getting his gill nets, so he has 16 fishing boats, 23 minutes into the game, now getting his gill nets, and that's very unfortunate, because that could have been huge earlier on, but I would assume just maybe using those resources for something else. Villagers now getting caught off by some of these Reuters, halberdiers, and skirmishes, looking to maybe retreat with them with the caravels, which he has been training from his dock. And I don't know about this. Now minimoult training a lot of caravels himself, as well as having the frigate that is being repaired at a very slow rate. Kind of wonder if the advanced dock would be nice here. Minimoult on the side of Aiken, now right-clicking the TC, and might actually go ahead and train some halberdiers just to give him that extra damage. And this couldn't come at a better time, because as we see on the top side, we can actually tell that Aiken was looking to go for age 3 23 minutes into the game. So finally he got himself enough time to go to age 3, aging up with the Taj Mahal, which will give him the peace ability, or the ceasefire ability, which will stop all attacks for, I think it's 30 or 25 seconds. But with the TC now going down, I'm not sure he's gonna kind of I don't think he's gonna make it too much. I think he will also lose his shipment point. No, he does have that castle over here, so we'll have that shipment point, but I don't think he's going to be very happy about losing that TC. All the villages inside also now going down, and yeah, this is looking very horrible for Aiken at the moment. And even if he does go H3, you kind of have to think to yourself, where will his eco be? Also losing boats on water. H3 caravels, I would assume, just a little bit stronger than these H2 caravels, so also kind of losing water at the same time. But all in all, just very good game. Shows you the strength of Dutch H3 and also great hold by Minimal in the early stage of H3 with those pikes. Even though the pikes weren't the best shipment when they came out initially, but later on they just paid off against those sours and then the skirmishes and also this gate. And he was just so easily able to hold that push with the TC fire and the Minutemen. So really all comes down to that one hold of Minimal. If they had gone south, I think he would have taken a lot of damage and India would have just kind of had enough time to boom on water and on land, and it could have been very horrible for Minimal. Check out the post-game stats. We can see Aiken has a lot more resources than his opponent, which many people would kind of disagree in most cases. If we didn't have these numbers on, I think if we didn't have these numbers up, a lot of people would kind of assume Dutch has more resources, but Aiken sending in those crates, having the consular upgrades, having a lot of villagers, having the boats, actually has more resources than his opponent towards the end of the game, which is maybe surprising to many. Timeline wise, we're also going to check out some of the villager differences. So 71 villagers at 18 minutes into the game versus 37 villagers for Minimoult, of course, with those 4 banks or 5 banks kind of being 4 villagers in total. So maybe you could say 16 villagers, maybe 20 villagers, I don't know. So maybe like, yeah, maybe 56 if that's accurate, if that's an accurate way of saying it. Just getting a nice raid off here, denying 5 villagers. Or sorry, 7 villagers. My mistake. Huge raid. Also in that H3 fight, denying a few villagers as well. So kind of just pulling ahead in terms of the villager count. Military unit wise, we can definitely see some fights breaking out in H3 and beyond. So H3 didn't look too good for Aiken. I would assume he would love to have a good wipe here, but just kind of trading evenly, having to back as soon as those Reuters came with the remass, as you can see here. But then the aggro fight where Minimog just kind of got caught off guard with those Sepoys in melee, all of those Reuters losing HP, and then of course the skirmishes as well. And you can just see it was a really, really bad fight for Minimoult. And even though Aiken does lose more units, in the end, he actually has less units to begin with. So I feel like that was a good trade for him, especially H2 versus H3. And the third trade was not so great, or these trades weren't so great. And that's when he was just kind of forcefully trying to push with those sours. Just didn't work for him. So I feel like this was a big turning point for Aiken negatively. Like, this was good, but if he had backed off after this one, instead of fighting, then it would have been a different story. And you can just see Minimoult just scales with units afterwards. But yeah, great game. Also want to show you the all resources gathered, just to show you whereabouts India starts to outgather the Dutch player. And roughly around 10 minutes, it seems, he starts outgathering with potentially water, the shipments, and then just having abundance in villages towards the very end. Very good game, and we're gonna head into the next game very soon, so just give me 2 minutes. I will just make sure I load up the games, maybe just check my Discord as well, and of course update the score. So just give me 1 minute to do all that, and we are going to head into the second game. But for now, my name is Lena, and those guys were Aiken versus Minimoult. Aiken playing for the Mandarin Duck squad. Mandarin Duck squad being position 2 at the moment on the table. Minimoult playing for Hudson Bay BIGS, currently 4th place, if I saw correctly. I have to double check and see if I can kind of look to find some stats for you guys. I'm going to put display capture on just as of now, so you guys can check out the ladder as well. Thank you so much for your patience as we head into the next game. Forgot to update the score, sadly. There we have it. Heading into game number 2, Akin versus Minimoult. We have a British mirror on the map Colorado, and yeah, this is going to be very interesting. Of course, now we are currently spectating Akin on the right side of Colorado in the color blue, going ahead and placing his first mana house of the game, also picking up a 40 wood treasure, as well as scouting out a nice coin treasure as well, building his second mana house, currently on 6 villagers, training his 7th villager, so looking to go for a very pacey build with those extra 2 villagers that he gets. And right now I would kind of ask myself, Akin, he might be looking to get another wood treasure and kind of build that 3rd mana house, which in a mirror match could actually be quite huge. And yeah, maybe that's exactly what we see, but instead picking up a 70 or 80 XP treasure guarded by 2 coyotes. On the other side, we have Minimoult in the color red on the left side of Colorado. He is currently doing the exact same thing, but he's doing something a little bit different here. So instead of actually going ahead and finding a wood treasure, he's chopping for the wood himself, and he's wasting no time doing so. And 1 mana house cost 135 wood and now has exactly that amount of wood to build that 3rd house. And we literally just talked about having that extra villager in a mirror match, especially in the first minutes of age 1. You have to imagine how that extra villager is going to scale. He's going to gather, you know, a lot sooner than potentially that 3rd villager for Akin if he even gets it. So it's really, really big here, and kind of have to ask yourself, is this something that Minimoult always does in mirror matches? Does he always go for that 3rd house? Because I think it can be good, and, you know, chopping a little bit of wood here and there isn't that bad, especially when it's not even that much. And also picking up some treasures, as we see now, 90 food as well. So on top of having, you know, that extra villager, he's now picking up a 20 coin treasure and 50 food, and if he gets this food treasure, that's another 90 food in total, so 140 food in worth of treasures, and that's going to kind of excel his age up time quite a bit, and he might go age 2 a little bit sooner with an extra villager. And beautiful start. I mean, not really much you can want more on the side of Mini, and I would assume he maybe picked up a wood treasure or an in-base wood treasure, therefore just kind of deciding to chop, and does have 8 wood over gathered, but that's no biggie. Now going to pick up that treasure very safely, and going to be happy about that indeed. Head over to the other side. We can see Akin also preying another treasure himself, and does see in the tab on the left that his opponent has been picking up food treasures, so he might have to kind of find a way to bridge that gap in terms of age of time. You have to imagine Minimoult did chop some wood, so his age of would technically be so slower, but now with those food treasures he might actually age up faster. 110 coin guarded by 3 coyotes, looking to be picked up by Akin. And yeah, if he gets this, he's going to be happy about that. But look at this, Minimoult on top of this. Not only are both players aging, I would assume both players are aging. Minimoult go for the 18th villager here. Wow, super greedy. Very greedy, but now he will be aging a little bit slower than his opponent nonetheless, but does go for the extra villager, and also scouting the treasure and kind of forcing Akin to not take it. And his explorer is currently on 218 HP, whereas Mini's is on 299. Could I date my double cousin? And not quite sure what a double cousin is, but are we talking what is a double cousin? Very interesting explorer name. William Cook on the side of Akin, and now on below 200 HP. And yeah, Minimoult is looking for blood here. He's looking to do some damage. He wants to kind of deny this explorer, kind of just get the extra XP, because not only does he feel like he has the better start, but now with this potential 45 XP that he could pick up, he's going to have maybe the better XP curve on top of that as well. But I think the map is a little bit too small. It does look like Akin will be able to retreat to his base safely. His TC is just around the corner over here, and yeah, also Minimoult maybe just looking to scuff the explorer so he can pick up this treasure himself. 1 coyote did already go down thanks to Akin, and still has his crack shot available, I would assume. Does use it on that coyote, I would assume. and actually getting the second one down low as well. But this is going to be very close. Now, both explorers on top of this treasure. Who gets it? That is a real decisive question, and Aiken is able to redeem himself, and this must be a really mental, this might be somewhat of a mental victory for him. Last game was kind of terrible with the India, just couldn't catch a break versus Dutch, and this game doesn't seem to be better. Not getting any decent treasures, and obviously getting kind of scouted out there. So now picking up that 110 coin definitely will be something he will enjoy. And aging up with the governor, getting the extra 200 coin of chest, or yeah, chest of coin, and also has that early marketplace up as well. Great herding by him, keeping his explorer alive as well, not kind of donating that 45 XP his opponent's way. Also sending a villager forward, building a forward barracks on both sides. So not only is Minimoult now aging up with the same, a little bit slower, does have 20 vills versus 17 vills. So going for 2 extra villagers actually. So not only did he get the 3 mana house H1, but he also kind of trained another villager aging up a little bit later with all that extra food. But now we have a big front base war going on, and if there's anything I've seen in previous games is that speed is everything, right? Timing is everything, and not only is timing everything, but shipments are everything for both sides. So are you going to send in the wood? Are you going to send in the musketeers? And we're going to have to see both players sending in the wood, so no musketeers to be seen from either sides. And I guess it makes sense because ideally, you don't really want to send musketeers when your opponent has an outpost next to his barracks as well. And identical build order here, and this is going to be an interesting one. This might be a a bloodbath for both players. If I've seen one before, musketeers in queue for Mini, and Aiken also got the 5 musketeers out. He did have his front base out a little bit sooner, which means he will get those 5 musketeers out sooner as well, even making a mana house between the barracks and this cliff, which maybe could act as a little bit of a wall or a substitute for wall and kind of block off this choke. 5 musketeers coming out, getting his second shipment H2, sending in 600 wood after the 700 wood. Even has the rum distillery in his deck, which does increase his coin gathering rates. But for now, we're just going to kind of follow these musketeers and just kind of see what Aiken sees on the map. And at the moment, we don't really see much. He doesn't see anything. He has no idea what the hunts are for the British, and maybe that's due to his explorer kind of getting assaulted in the early stages of the game and not really being able to scout much. And now with these musketeers might be looking to raid behind the base of Mini. Mini on the other side, kind of bringing those musketeers back for a defensive positioning, looking to defend these villagers gathering from this hunt, almost expecting that the musketeers will come from the back. Oof. Mana house there to provide some line of sight, building a lot of mana houses, 28 villages in total, 9, or should I say 10 mana houses have been built as of now on the side of Minimoult. On the side of Aiken, we can see he's actually only built 7 mana houses, still has to build a few more, but he's also going for more aggressive mana houses. You can see his villagers are kind of out on the field, and you would kind of assume, of course, he's going to get those villagers out a little bit later because of the walking time, but therefore I feel like he's going to have more map control and more access in terms of food, seeing as he does have this extra hunt now with potentially 5 villagers or 4 villagers gathering from it. Musketeers in the back line doing some damage to this mana house, and you have to kind of ask yourself, is this the right choice from Aiken? Does he want to take down this mana house, give Minimoult that free villager? But I think maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea, because wood is definitely a scarce resource when you're playing the British, because you need every single wood piece that you can get, not only for your units but also for your houses. And you only have those 2 wood shipments, which kind of means as soon as those wood shipments do deplete the 600-700 wood, that's pretty much you done for houses, and the rest of the wood income does have to come from the villages. Aiken now sending in the 5 vills, and if we head over to Minimoult, we can maybe see what he's sending in. Just going to activate the more info tab. I apologize. Minimoult sending in the spice trade, increasing his gathering rates on terms of hunting. So it does give him a 20% increase on hunted animals, but also on berries, which I guess we don't really need to mention on the map Colorado. But one unique thing about this card is that it also increases the yield of hunted animals by 10%. So meaning his hunts will last 10% longer. Very, very nice card to send in, and might give him that extra village or that extra edge in terms of villager gathering rates. But he didn't send in those 5 vills, and you have to ask yourself, what card is better? Is it better to have a spice trade on 36 vills, or is it better to have 5 vills? And I think Minimoult actually being a little bit smarter in his shipment choice. Scout as well. Envy for minimoult, kind of scouting out these houses, scouting out the unit composition of his opponents. We also saw a very early steel traps from Aiken, so he almost got his steel traps at like 6 minutes. And if we check over to the side of minimoult, he's now just getting his steel traps, which, you know, we talked about the spice trade. I think the same can be applied to the steel traps. Is it better to get those steel traps in nice and early, or is it better to have that extra, you know, few houses or that extra house? And I would assume the steel traps just way better. So it looks like both players kind of doing the right things, but also the wrong things in a way. So both players kind of going for like a semi-different build, even though their front bases would not suggest so. Almost identical in terms of placement. But yeah, now minimoult feeling that he's a little bit stronger than his opponent, or maybe just kind of bored, and looking to right-click at this forward outpost of the side of Aiken, and yeah, looking to do a great job at doing so. I mean, he's got a total of 26 musketeers, whereas Aiken, how many musketeers does he have? 25? So curious to see that he just kind of lets that outpost go down, which would have given him that extra attack damage that he might have needed in that fight. But maybe he's just looking to go for a big timing here. 5 musketeers coming out from the barracks, building a second barracks in the back line, also sending in musketeers from his home city, which, yeah, might be a really nice addition in terms of adding to the 29 total musketeers, 44 villages for Aiken, where minimoult actually has a total of 39 musketeers of his own. And nice little micro here. Definitely a great APM, having the 3 musketeers out on the field, looking to go for a raid. And this could be a game changer. He could potentially idle the entire economy of his opponent with, you know, simple 3 musketeers. But doesn't want to lose his barracks, though. That would be a big blow to him, and definitely needs to kind of hold the line here, especially when the units of minimoult are sieging and looking to do a lot of damage. And if we kind of check out the text, we can see that minimoult has sent in the attack card on the musketeers. So not only does he have very strong musketeers, but I feel like he has more musketeers as well. Maybe not, seeing as Aiken did send in those extra musketeers, but did get a few good trades there. 39 musketeers to 39 musketeers. So Aiken does have the maximum amount of musketeers, or should I say the more musketeers than his opponent, with those three musketeers in the back line. A bit of a fight breaking out. The barracks does go down, which is a big win for minimoult. And now fighting with the attack card on his musketeers, he's definitely going to win this fight here, having the, you know, same amount of musketeers, and then also having the attack card on your musketeers. You can definitely tell minimoult is ahead in terms of military advantage, but score-wise, Aiken is actually pulling ahead. So asking yourself, does the eco of Aiken hold strong behind this fight? And even if he does lose all of these musketeers, if he has the better eco behind this, I think he might actually be okay. But scores now looking to break even. Both players now on the same amount of score points. Not the same amount of musketeer number, however. More musketeers going down there. Miniman has been popped for the side of minimoult, just looking to defend. Now also sending in the musketeer HP card for those musketeers. So having the stats increased on both of those musketeers, as well as taking down the outpost and the barracks, you can just kind of look to minimoult and just see how he's kind of creeping forward with his military mass, looking to just do damage. And this is a little bit of an awkward position though, looking to burn down this barracks, which I guess enables Aiken to take a lot of free pop shots off. Hasn't sent in his attack card on his musketeers, but has sent in the HP card for his musketeers, which, if we saw correctly, minimoult has already done. Yeah, so yeah, having that extra take on those musketeers in terms of attack can be huge for him. No TP for both sides. 43 vills from minimoult, but we also see Aiken with 49 villages, so definitely having the better eco behind this. Also popping out the Miniman for that extra damage that he will need versus these very strong musketeers. Also sending in the attack card finally, and maybe with this, you know, better eco, and now with the better the same musketeer strength, he will be able to kind of look to win this game, or kind of redeem his position and advance to maybe secure some of the mid-map, should I say. House under threat here, getting burned down by these musketeers of minimoult, getting right-clicked. And if we turn on the fog of war, you can maybe just see what minimoult sees. So he's burning down his house, and one thing that Aiken's going to do there, he's going to kind of just wait and take pop shots. But looks like minimoult is ahead right now, very aware of the positioning and the attack advantage or disadvantage he could have, but going for this full fight. And I'm not sure who's going to win this. We see minimoult with 23 musketeers, but we see Aiken with a little more musketeers, and also the Minutemen in the backline. 1 Minuteman or maybe 2 Minutemen still alive doing some damage, but looks like minimoult just a little bit stronger. But I feel like now with these reinforcing musketeers, he will have to back off fighting underneath that barracks. And I did say minimoult looked a little bit stronger, but I might might have to eat my words there. Now Aiken with the better eco, and now the decisive military mass pulling in strong, and it looked really awful for him, losing his barracks, losing his outposts, almost losing his houses, and now somehow managing to pull this one out the bag. Does have those techs on his musketeers finally, and you know, having those extra villages will definitely be everything for him right now in terms of having that extra batch of musketeers out on the field. Now sending in the longbows as well. H2 could be a huge game changer, and you have to kind of just think to yourself, these raids are really starting to pay off for Aiken, because 44 or 54 vills for him, 44 vills for minimoult, having 10 villages more than his opponent. Just due to those 3 musketeers earlier, which did pick off a few musketeers, villages. These musketeers up here, picking off a few villages, which were gathering over here, which sadly we did miss, but you can definitely see that he's lost villages. Like, minimoult has lost a lot of villages, and these raids are so huge, and Aiken just with the high APM just doing the most, and minimoult kind of ripping out a page from Aiken's book as of now, going for raids of his own, and we do see greycoats are on these villages, which might help him out here, but he definitely will lose a villager or 2 if he's not careful. Doesn't see this as of now. And one thing I love about this from minimoult is that he's waiting till he's very close. So he gets nice and close, and then he attacks because the alarm doesn't go off, right? If you shoot and you're not even close, the alarm goes off, your opponent sees it, he backs off, and he kind of, you know, instead of losing 3 vills, he loses 1 vill or something. So you can just see minimoult going very close there and trying to maximize the damage output here. A bit of a misclick there. You can see he used his select all unit hotkey. Now retreating with these musketeers, which should be raiding. Hopefully he will notice that, or I think he will notice. He's not going to pull these musketeers back. That was a beautiful raid by him. Nonetheless, still in a great position, but maybe we'll put them back now that he does spot that Aiken is kind of defending this, but a lot of villagers going down for Aiken as well. But you have to kind of think about it. These raids did come in a lot sooner for the side of the blue, meaning that he did kill a lot of villagers a lot sooner, meaning that he has been outgathering his opponent for a lot sooner as well. You can see the score lead has definitely increased for Aiken. 3k score ahead, and now you can see it right here, having more musketeers, having longbows as well. Maybe his XP curve a little bit better as well. Just being able to do so much damage now, and yeah, I think he's going to be unstoppable, but needs to be careful. He is getting raided on his side as well, but pulling those villagers back very intelligently, managing to keep most of them alive. 47 vills for minimoult, where we see Aiken with 54 still. So he did lose a few villagers himself, but still kind of pulling ahead in terms of villager count. Is losing a few vills here, but minimoult not doing the best job at kind of being aware of the fact that he could have picked up that extra villager. Kind of preoccupied, not trying to lose those 3 barracks that he does have in a very forward position. And now with this big 5-man, or you know, 3 barracks musketeer pop, complete obliteration for the side of Aiken, absolutely destroying all of these musketeers coming out from these barracks. And this is an awful trade for minimoult. He's trying to age behind this, and now he's just suiciding musketeers, and this is kind of a bait from Aiken. I mean, there's no way you're gonna have enough mass to kind of compete against this. You've already kind of lost in terms of eco, so I think the best thing for minimoult to do right now is just not train musketeers and just go age 3, and he would have been age 3 already, I feel, or clicked up for sure if he hadn't trained those musketeers, which pretty much were trained to their death. And here we see it once again, musketeers coming out of the barracks, and 5 musketeers, 3 already going down, almost a 4th one as well. So literally deleting resources there. Big mistake by minimoult, and you can definitely see with those musketeers now suiciding themselves, they have now definitely impacted the score of minimoult. And minimoult realizes he might be a little too far behind in this game, calling GG, looking to go for a raid there, but great defense by Aiken. And wow, Aiken coming in very strong with his British gameplay, looking to pick game number 2 off the Hudson Bay BIGS. Aiken playing for the Mandarin Duck squad will be very happy about that in 2nd place, looking to get as many wins as he can in this play all 7. And yeah, very good play by him. I would assume, you know, one thing I feel like Aiken did very well were those raids, like those early raids just were the game changer right there, picking villagers off on this side, then also being very aggressive with his manor houses, so he was able to get that extra hunt. I think in the early stages, having to walk with those villagers cost him time, but then it paid off in the later stages, having those extra food or animals, whereas minimoult didn't really have that luxury. And then, of course, those raids coming in very early, able to pick off a lot of villagers on the side of minimoult throughout the entire game, which means as soon as he had the same amount of techs on those musketeers, Not only did he have similar strength, but then he had the better eco behind that. But yeah, playing very, very nice with just kind of losing that barracks, losing that outpost. Not kind of getting baited into a bad fight when he wasn't ready. So just waiting for that big timing. And of course, all the meanwhile raiding with those musketeers all across the map. So yeah, game-winning moves by Aiken. And yep, in the end, having 2k resources more than his opponent, which doesn't seem like a lot if you think about it. It felt like he had way more in terms of score, just had way more as well, and maybe also taking a better fight, I guess. I mean, in a mirror match, 2k is quite decisive, but I thought maybe towards the end he would have more of those just extra villages, but apparently not. Losing a lot of villages himself. 170 units for the side of Aiken, and maybe that's where those 2k resources were invested into those, extra 27 musketeers. Precisely, or roughly, should I say. Favorite unit, I guess you both can guess. Both players could guess Musketeer pretty much being their favorite unit. I don't think there were many other units being trained in that mirror match. Experience curve looking better for Aiken, so actually having more experience towards the end of the game, which we did talk about. It did seem like he had that extra shipment with those longbows, which minimoult kind of didn't have, which is kind of interesting how he managed to do that. I'd assume just getting those better fights off. And then also killing those villages. Interesting that he had more XP. Very interesting. minimoult had a really good start that game, so it was looking really good for him. But maybe just the build order. I don't know. I think it was the build order. I think the build order was perfect for both players. It's just those raids. We already spoke about that. And you can just tell, like, when did the raids come in? So Aiken actually sending the 5 villages sooner. Whereas minimoult sending in the spice trade. Interesting. Yeah, we kind of forgot about that. So I feel like resource gathering rates are very close here. But then the raids do come in eventually. So a villager there. And then a few villages here. A few villages there. And then he does send in the 5 villages, but instantly loses like 3 villages. So maybe I'm kind of wrong. Because maybe the raids want everything. I feel like minimoult, if we go to all resources gathered, we can probably see that they're very close. Interesting. So 10 minutes and 32 seconds into the game. Just go to the villager population. Interesting. Picking off a few villages. Maybe he had those 5 villages that was, I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. It's very close in general. It's a strange one. Sometimes you don't fully understand why. But we're going to head into the next game. Let me know if there's anything you guys wanted to see in the post game. And let me know what you think about that game in general. Like, what do you think both players did correctly? What do you think both players did, you would have personally done differently? So going to update the score. And currently it's a 1-1 on both sides. Looking to be a great series. And saying that, heading over to game number 3 of this evening's playoffs. Hudson Bay BIGS versus the Mandarin Duck Squad. Game number 3. So, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Lovely ESOC community, Age of Empires 3 community. Thank you so much for being here. And once again, we have a great series on our hands. We have 2 really nice players. In terms of skill, of course. I'm sure they're very kind as well, obviously. But in terms of skill, very nice players. Playing us against each other, we saw a British mirror in the previous game. Now we see Spain versus Inca. And I do want to talk about the matchup a little more in the later stages of the game. But also want to kind of show you what both players could be doing as an opening. And so far, we see both explorers on both sides looking to pick up these llamas on Sierra's Pampas. And one great thing about this map is that you do have livestock on the left side, each llama giving you 400 food in total, something you definitely want to pick up as soon as possible. And for Spain, this could mean a very early H3, and for Inca, it could be a lot of units out very early in terms of most of their units cost a lot of food. For example, I think a spearman or a jungle bowman have approximately 100 food cost with 20 wood cost. So these extra llamas could just kind of give him that extra batch of units that he might need. Nonetheless, we have Aiken on the bottom side playing the color blue, playing the Spanish. On the top side, we have minimoult playing Inca, playing, of course, with those two cancha houses. Maybe would have wanted to make a TP with that extra wood that he does get from his start. In the previous patch, they have actually changed the crates of Inca, giving them extra wood, which enables them to kind of either make 2 cancha houses or even 1 cancha and a TP for 250 wood and 180 wood. Llamas being picked up from both sides, and wow, nice little play by minimoult. Managed to get that llama from the Spanish, stealing it off of him, kind of body blocking there, or just kind of waiting around, seeing if that llama was kind of going to switch sides here, and it did. So 3 llamas being picked up for minimoult, and yeah, no chance for Aiken to kind of get the llama, but he might actually look to get it. Might get body blocked by this guanaco, but you can see minimoult right on top of that. Doesn't want to lose that llama, needs every single piece of a llama meat that he can find on this map. Still 2 llamas left to kind of be found. And I guess we can maybe talk about this matchup a little bit more, because I think this is an interesting matchup for both players. On one side, you have Inca, which is a civilization that usually likes to stay age 2. So they like to kind of ship in 600 wood. You know, the cancha chicha bring, which we can see in his deck, which does increase the cancha houses. So similar to mana house boom with Brits, where they spam a lot of houses, get the extra villages, and kind of boom in H2, very comfortable in H2. But the thing about all of this is that they have changed Inca so much in the recent patch. They've completely reworked the civ, meaning that previously this civ being an H2 was a big no-no against Spain, in my opinion, because Spain likes to go H3 and make falconets, or should I say ship in falconets. So if we check his deck, he goes H3, makes skirmishes, pikes, rods, and ships in 2 falconets, which is very hard for any civilization to deal with in H2, because you don't have access to culverins, you don't have access to anything that really kind of does that range damage versus artillery. The only thing Inca has are those chimus, which die so fast. And the thing about Aiken is he's playing Spain, which they love to make pikes, and not only do they like to get pikes from their age up, or should I say not their age up, they're of course 8 pike shipment in H2, but they also like to train rods and make rods. You can see here 9 rods, 6, 7 rods, H3 and H2's their unique unit, which are just so good against Chimu runners, which would be needed to kill those cannons. There's a very awkward thing for Inca to deal with, but now that they've been changed, he does have access to the Kalankas in H2, which he doesn't even have in his deck, sadly, which would enable him to make Horakas, which are quite decent against artillery if positioned correctly. It could also kind of give him that extra edge in terms of defense, being able to use those units in and out of those Kalankas, kind of ejecting and idling. But yeah, for now, minimoult going to H2 at a really decent time. That is also one thing they have changed, is kind of, you know, when you start with those 2 extra cancha houses with your wood start, not having to kind of chop for anything, especially on a non-TP map, you kind of have the extra food income. So each Kalanka, or should I say cancha house, sorry, has a 0.60 food trickle per second. So a lot of food very early on in the game. And Spain also playing on a non-TP map, they love to, you know, go for the early TP or even an ATP in some of the strats that I've seen before. And even though they do have a very small XP curves, meaning their shipments require less XP to kind of get the shipment, a non-TP map is kind of awkward for Spain, but I think he's going to be okay. Now picking up that scout, Apapa, how do you pronounce that? Apapao scout being picked up here. We do see the bandit rifleman also being converted for the Inca side, but H3 coming in for Aiken on the Spanish side, getting that nice early H2, even earlier than his opponent, which is very impressive. Aging up with the outpost, now being instantly scouted out by the Chasqui, which is definitely going to be nice for minimoult, kind of assuming he might just go for that standard H3, sending in the 700 coin first, but looks like Aiken not doing that, sending in the 700 wood first, which is not quite the usual strat that you see Aiken or Spanish players do. Big shout to Robro, being one of the best Spanish players I've seen. Minimoult picking up the Explorer. 45 XP is awarded to him. Also, of course, might actually do some very, very decent damage here to this outpost. He's obviously not going to get the wagon, but I don't think he cares about the wagon. He wants to get the outpost building. If you guys didn't know, buildings, when they are being built, take increased damage. As you can see here, I think it's 300%. So you can see this outpost will definitely be very low HP by the time it builds, which maybe could set him up for some pikes. Minimoult now coming in, H2 himself. Has actually all of these llamas on the community plaza trickling in XP, and this is a beautiful play by him, sending in the 5 villagers first, I would assume. Or did I see the 600 wood coming in first? I might have to double check. No, the 5 villagers coming in first, the 600 wood to follow, and training pikes from his barracks, which with the change of Inca, he has to make this now. He has to chop for the wood to make the barracks. He no longer can actually use the travois to make the barracks anymore, which means a lot of wood is invested into that. And also in terms of base defense, he's not going to have those 2 war huts out in the mid-map very early on. Musketeers being trained from the forward barracks, and you can see Aiken not going H3 anymore, playing H2 with the 700 wood, building the barracks, training the Musketeers, actually keeping this outpost alive. 874 HP on this outpost. Scout also being able to kind of scout out the units of Minimoult, and yeah, Minimoult kind of now forced to retreat because he's trained a lot of pikemen, and he has a total of 2 cancer houses as of now, shipping in those 5 villages. However, 22 villages for him. Pikes coming out from the shipment pool of Aiken, and this is where Spain kind of falls ahead, I would say, having the extra XP, despite these llamas, of course, dancing for the XP now with the pikes out on the field, burning the only cancer houses that Minimoult has alive. And if he even kills 1 cancer house here, I think this would be a big trade for him. 600 wood does come in, but now that they have increased the cancer house cost, that's going to be a big blow if he does lose this 180 wood cancer house. Switching over to the side of Aiken, we can see he's on 18 vills, but is sending in the 5 villagers H2, which will definitely kind of keep him up to date in terms of villager and eco potential versus Inca, which usually does have the better eco, but the builder for Minimoult not looking too good at the moment. And yeah, the pikes were out at the right time, but maybe a little bit too late on his age up time. Now kind of has to wait until those jungle bows do come out, but very awkward game for him, losing 2 cancers already, and the mass of Aiken just furtherly increasing. Might actually add some crossbows or some musketeers behind this. Has his shipment ready, and you can just see the momentum that Spain has right now. The semi is just really beautiful, able to kind of keep his outpost alive, buy himself some time, deny 2 cancer houses, and behind this he could just easily gather the 300 coin that we see he is maybe looking to do, and then put all his vills on food and go H3 behind this, which could be something we could see here. But you also have to kind of ask yourself, Inca do very well with time. Like, the longer the game goes on, the better for them almost, because they have amazing scaling. Like, not only do they have the extra town center in H2 for 250 coin, but then in H3 they also have like 2 town centers, the fortress, and I guess we're not gonna probably see an H3 by him as of now. He is sending in the 700 coin though, so I might have to eat my words on that. But even if he played H2, he could just send in the 600 wood infinite times and then just go for Chicha Bring, boom. But now that he's lost a lot of cancer houses and needs to kind of apply some military damage here, so maybe seeing a counter push out of Minimoult, see more jungle bows coming out from this barracks, as well as those pikes, of course, out on the field doing some damage to this barracks. And yep, slowly kind of increasing his mass as well, and I think this is a right move for him. Has the Explorer as well with a lot of damage output, has a crack shot similar to the Haudenosaunee Explorer, which does affect all units. But look at this huge surround with those pikes in guard mode, having a dual, or should I say a triple resistance against all units here. The musketeers getting a full surround very close to these jungle bows, and these jungle bows do have multiplied damage against the musketeers, but they have very low HP, 90 hit points on the jungle bows. And of course, with those musketeers doing 23 range attack, those 90 hit points look very juicy for those musketeers. And now that all of those pikes have gone down, I think the musketeers will kind of maybe just back off, and we can maybe see a stable out for Aiken, and maybe look to kind of just kill these jungle bows in a little bit of a later stage of the game. Now trading a little bit awkwardly here. I think this is a little bit of a bad trade for Aiken. Looked really good for him with that sandwich. Didn't manage to get the snare off. Might need to maybe use his Explorer more effectively. Quite sure where his Explorer is. Where is his Explorer? Can't really see the Explorer of the Spanish. Imagine a snare there. That would have been huge. Oh, they have both died on top of each other. That's why we couldn't see it. Imagine some dogs, and the Explorer snare on these jungles would have been huge. But instead, sending in the rods and also training more musketeers, but taking a few bad trades here. A lot of these jungle bowmen do have poison attack, which means these musketeers not only take multiplied damage, but they also take damage over time. You can see this musketeer is constantly losing HP from the poison attack of these jungle bows. And now Minimoult has kind of found his rhythm. This is how you have to kind of play with the jungle bows. You need to go back and kind of use the extra range that you have, as well as of course having that extra damage. And now those musketeers do dwindle in terms of mass. All of them going down. Nice little pop there, but I don't think it's going to be enough. The rods do come in from the backline, and maybe Aiken will have enough here if he does get the snare on the rods with those 5 musketeers now moving up, but I don't think it's going to be enough. We also see perhaps some more units being trained from minimoult, but no, looking to actually go H3 here, and I mean, sure, I mean, why not? Now going towards this Warheart, gonna have that additional attack from the Warheart, 30 range attack, as well as a 3 rate of fire, giving him the additional damage on those rods, as well as those musketeers. Forward villagers on the side of minimoult, trying to get this hunt, but needs to be careful, could easily be sniped. Does have this hunt towards the back of his base, but this is a great play by minimoult. You know, not only does he win H2 fights, but now he's going H3 behind this, and can we maybe see the same from Aiken? I would assume he's probably doing the same, but I saw the Hussars being trained, so kind of already assuming he's not going H3, and this could be a big loss for Aiken because now he's playing the H3 Civ. Now he's playing against the H3 Civ and kind of sticking to H2, which I don't feel like Spain H2 is that viable, to be honest. A lot of his stronger cards are in H3, like the Spanish Gold as well as the 2 Falconer Shipmen, and now kind of forced to kind of play H2 in a way, losing that fight. But if he gets a good idol here, maybe a few villages, maybe just deny most of the units of his opponent, he might be able to H himself and just buy himself enough time to do so. A bit of a raid we saw there. No, just Chakski's being annoying, burning down this house, and yeah, the ping is going off for Aiken this entire time. So he has a lot of things going on at the moment. minimoult now getting a full idol. 15, 16, 17 votes in the town center, and yeah, this is exactly what Aiken wants right now. He wants to idle his entire economy and just kind of buy himself some time. Kalanka is being built in H3. We did see the fast age up from minimoult, also getting the 3. Oh no, we saw the slow age up from minimoult. I would assume the 3 priestesses coming out for minimoult. This is a very interesting age up. So not only did he go for the slow age up, but then he's also now losing some of his priestesses as well, but managing to convert some of those Hussar with those priestesses. Aiken not paying attention. So yeah, now we see some 3 Incan Hussar out on the field, and this is a huge victory for minimoult. Using those Hussar against the Spanish player, against the Musketeers, which we don't even see in a high amount of numbers. And now with the pikes coming out from the big button, or maybe even the Rex, going to be able to maybe snout to some of these Hussar, just do some extra damage here. A huge play for him. And yeah, great, you know, H3 defense by minimoult, and behind this training bowlers as well as sending in those jungle bows. And yeah, all in all, really good fight and really good defense by minimoult, but will lose most of his units. But I think he's not going to be too bothered about this because he's going to buy himself some time for his H3 shipments to come in. But still got those 16 villagers in his town center for longer than he may have wanted to have them in his town center for, which you know, that's a lot of villagers to have idle. But wow, actually managing to pull ahead in that fight. I have no idea how he managed to do that. Maybe with a lot of those Hussars kind of falling low HP. Chakski's still being annoying. Actually almost burning down the house. 75, 60 HP on the house. And ladies and gentlemen, I think we have a game on our hands. I mean, Aiken not only playing really decently, kind of, you know, managing to kind of do a lot with those Hussar raids in terms of idling, but also on the side of minimoult21, also kind of playing a very nice Inca here, doing a lot of unorthodox things with the conversion of those priestesses. It's been a long time since we've seen something like that. I mean, what a better time to convert those Hussars and turn them against the Spanish than in early H3 when you're most vulnerable, should I say. Now looking to push on to this outpost with those spearmen and the explorer, as well as some jungle bows and some bowlers, but not really a lot of money behind this. But that will change, sending in the double town travois. And we talked about the Incan scaling abilities that, you know, when you're H3, you're easily able to send in 2 town centers, and the synergy is there with the cancha houses gathering 0.96 food per second. So he needs to get the maximum amount of cancha houses out for him to kind of have that extra food to train from these 3 town centers. But all in all, we'll have enough food, as we can see here, to kind of train those villages and also train units behind this, training pikes as of now, but also losing a lot of damage on those pikes. Might lose most of his army here. These Hussar might just get away with a trade of their life. Literally, not really the best unit composition here for Aiken, but he might actually do okay. One interesting thing about the bowlers is that they also do multiply damage in melee. And look at this, reinforcing plumed spearmen, or should I say plumed spearmen, coming in to scale off those Hussar. And Aiken thought he took the trade of his life, but actually literally taking the trade of his life, losing all of those hussar. Oof, the wordplay, insane. Nice little hunting area over here, managing to secure these guanaco. I would like to say these villages are exposed, but seeing as we do have a nice seed on this map for Aiken, he's kind of easily able to ward this choke off, and I think he's going to be safe. So really, really nice play by him, and yeah, might buy himself enough time to potentially age to the 3rd age, and exactly that is something we see now. And the scout is the age up policy that Spain does decide to choose, and we'll have the shipment ready as well. One thing I do have to wonder is that, is he going to send in the Spanish gold first? Because one thing about Aiken is that he's sending in a lot of shipments in H2, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 shipments. And now that he's reaching H3, his XP toll is definitely taken a hit. Like, his whole XP gathering rate is taking a huge hit, meaning that in H3, his shipments might not come in as fast as they would have if he hadn't have sent all of those shipments in, kind of maybe almost making Spanish gold not so viable anymore. But we have to see how he does on this non-TP map. Minimoult on the other side, 3 town centers out on the field, and just pretty much booming. And Minimoult right now is really happy with where he is and pulling ahead 5k score, and not only applying pressure but also having a really good eco behind this. 40 villages for him versus 34 villages of his opponent. We do see those hussar going to be coming out from the age up, as well as the 4 hussar, or should I say the 6 hussar from the stable, and the Miniman being popped here, looking to maybe defend this, but he's lost his stable, and now, even if he kind of wins this fight, he's going to lose a lot of hussar. Not only the bowlers will do a lot of damage, but these hussar also being unupgraded is going to be very unfortunate for him. Nice micro by Aiken, though. Wow, beautiful micro there. Splitting, 3 batches of hussar all over the side, just looking to get the damage done with those Minutemen and the musketeers, which are the better units to kind of have against spearmen and bowlers. Skirmishes would be ideal here for him, sending in the Spanish gold, also training skirmishes from his barracks. But now losing that stable, doesn't really have the wood to kind of rebuild that stable, and then also kind of train houses as well, or should I say make houses. Apologize. Getting his explorer as well from the town center, actually paid the money to get it back just to train those dogs, kind of give him the extra damage needed in this fight. And I mean, 6k score behind, you kind of ask yourself, how does Aiken win this game? And I mean, this would be a good start, if he wipes out these units, kind of establish himself a little bit more dominant in H3. I feel like he can kind of buy himself some time, but he did age over those 4 hussar instead of the bishop, so it's 1 town center versus 3 town centers, and also his hunts will be running out, whereas you kind of have to look to Inca as like a South American Dutch, where they have kind of food for days. So Inca really doesn't have an issue in terms of food, more in terms of coin, I would assume, but most of his units don't actually cost coin either, apart from those bowlers, meaning that he's gonna have trees for days. Just seems like Inca the better civ at the moment. And yeah, also with the resources, also with the fortress coming out, shipment being sent in from Minimoult, which is I was gonna say a shipment, but he's actually building this with his explorer. 600 wood and 600 coin, or sorry, 350 wood, 350 coin invested into this. Zapa Mukada also sending in the fortress from his home city, but doesn't manage to get this fortress up just yet, but does manage to kind of defend against those hussar with those spears. But musketeers and skirmishes looking to maybe just kill this explorer before he gets that fortress up. This would be huge for Minimoult, because fortresses for Inca are just such a big thing. He's able to kind of put his units inside of the fortress, and with good micro, he's able to outplay his opponent very decisively, and it's very hard to deal with unless you kind of make artillery or petards. And the second fortress for Minimoult going on the other side, it seems securing as well a lot of the map. As you can see here, we do see a forward villager for Aiken looking to herd this in. He does need this hunt, but now with this fortress that will be placed, it will be very hard for him to kind of get that. Nice little play here. We see these skirmishes with their 14 siege, getting the fortress down before it builds. And yeah, very beautiful play by Minimoult, or should I say Aiken, but also great play by Minimoult, because now he's bought himself enough time to kind of not only get the maximum amount of priestesses out, so he's got 10 priestesses out. This is the equivalent of a warrior priest boom, or even stronger. But then he also has the 3 town centers, and if we check out some of his shipments, you can see he even sent in the 5 priestesses, which is such a greedy shipment. It's not something you get out a lot, and he doesn't even care about these fights. If you don't make units, you don't lose any units, right? So he's losing all these units, but what is this to him? 5 jungle bows. His eco is insane right now, 57 vills. He's just booming so heavily, so just kind of buying himself some time. But, I mean, he needs to be careful that he doesn't kind of play a little bit too greedy and then kind of get idled and, you know, lose more than he's willing to lose. Fortress now also being placed very aggressively. Imagine if the fortress was placed over here. It would kind of make his base unpushable, if that's a word. Now Bowler is being trained from double Kalenkas as well as training Chimu, sending in the combat as well in H3. So the melee infantry combat, boosting the stats of all melee infantry units. Chimu, of course, the spearmen, idling a few villages here. Bowlers being trained, and one great thing about the bowlers is that they are good against cav, but they're very bad against skirmishes, only having 13 range on those bowlers, so making the wrong units here. And one has to ask, is minimoult maybe a little bit inexperienced in terms of H3 Inca? And the reason why I say that is because I watch a lot of Gimmick, and Gimmick is one of the best Inca players that the world has ever seen. And now that we see minimoult playing H3, it's kind of like, he's making bowlers, but I feel like by the time he gets all of those bowlers out, he's then going to need light range infantry to deal with the skirmisher mass. But we're going to have to see how he bridges that gap. We did see he was training a few Chimus. See some jungle bows also being trained, kind of defending against these cancer houses under threat. But here we have it. This is the trade that he might not be willing to take, because now these losses are getting some decent raids in, and you know, if he picks off enough villages, maybe these town centers or the work that they have been doing in the previous minutes will be rendered useless if those villages fall. And all the meanwhile, Aiken kind of just securing himself some more map control behind this. Just looking to be aggressive so he can kind of be more aggressive in terms of eco as well. A lot of villagers migrating towards the side. Just kind of distracting his opponent and buying himself some time to just get that Spanish gold in. And even though he is kind of one town center, or should I say 2 town centers behind, he will kind of maybe be able to catch up a little bit if he gets some good trades, and with the Spanish gold as well. Bowlers being sent in for the Incan side. 10 bowlers, which by the way do have splash damage. So even though bowlers are range infantry units, so I don't know how you kind of explain what the bowler unit is, but it's a range infantry unit that is good against cav, and they also have a range snare, which means they also kind of slow units down from range. A little bit of a raid going on here. Now we see those Chimu were used very wisely to kind of raid his opponent, deny some of his already really low eco income, killing I think 2 villages there. 59 vills for the Incan side, losing a lot of villages himself, as you can see here. 10 XP awarded to the Spanish side. 37 vills for the Spanish side as well. And yeah, I feel like minimoult might be a little bit inexperienced in terms of what he's doing, because I feel like now that he's so far ahead, he's kind of giving his opponent a lot of time to catch up by not really making the best units, in my opinion, like bowlers and spears. That's like the worst unit to make against skirmishes. So this is really good for Aiken, but maybe minimoult just very patient, looking at the score, won't be too worried about that. Now this forward fortress under threat, and didn't really establish much for him. He did get the map control needed, and of course the line of sight, and I guess now a few valuable seconds or minutes that these falconets are kind of wasting on burning down this fortress. But he doesn't really need time. I feel like all he needs is to spend his resources, and you can just see his macro is stacking up as like crazy. Max cancer house population, also getting a lot of you know, XP income from these priestesses and these llamas that he did pick up in the early game. One thing about Inca is that they are able to use those llamas to kind of dance for him. So he's had the perfect game of his life. So he should be doing a lot better now, and you can just see the scores are reflecting towards him as well, but kind of giving his opponent a lot of time to make units and kind of catch up himself. And if Aiken was a little bit, you know, better established, he could maybe drop down a second town center and boom himself, but kind of has a lot to deal with. And these Chimu coming out at the perfect time. 5 Chimu will be able to tag out a Falconet here. Might even get the second Falconet. Has no anti-cap here to deal with those Chimu or anti-shock infantry, so we'll actually might get the second Falconet with 5 Chimu. That is a beautiful trade for Inca. Amazing. 5 Chimu is like, you have to imagine the cost of a Chimu is barely anything. 70 food, 35 coins, so all quite expensive if you think about it. 105, but that's for a cav unit or a shock infantry unit. You have low HP, but managing to take out 2 falconets, which is one of the best shipments that Spain has in H3, or any H3 civilization has. So much value in those falconets, and now all of them going down. And yeah, maybe minimoult just kind of very comfortable. realizing that he's just so far ahead in terms of eco that he's not really too worried about not making the right units. And now that I see this push, it seems strange because all of his units pretty much are just going to get kited. He does have this Chimu, but we talked about the low HP of those Chimu, but you know, maybe 10 is the magic number he needs to kind of snail to these skirmishes. And yeah, looks to be. Lances do come out, but I don't think these are going to be able to do much against those bowlers or those spears, and most of his other lances are out of position to kind of body block versus those Chimu. And yeah, 10 being the magic number, Miniman already being popped for Aiken, and yeah, Minimoult just kind of very patient and kind of very reckless in terms of winning this game, and realizing he's just so far ahead. The H3 defense, as well as just scaling so well with his civilization, able to just kind of win this game purely by score. And I think Aiken is going to look to his score as of now and just think to himself, okay, might be time to resign. Eco just not there, even though he does have the 360 coin from the Spanish gold. And of course, you know, the skirmisher mass slowly building up. He just kind of just look at the base of Inca right now. Exactly. Look at the base of Inca. It's almost like a what, Inca town, huge buzzing metropolis versus, of course, Spain's kind of village. And yep, game number 3 going towards Minimoult. Great play by him in the early stages of the game. A little bit of a weird play in H3, kind of just being so reckless and so careless with his units. But maybe that just shows you how skilled he is, winning the game so decisively in terms of score. Just look at the score difference, 14k score, and there wasn't even a real fight towards the end, it seemed. So really, really nice play by him, and just kind of showing you the potential that his civilization has when played correctly. And beautiful play by him, getting all those llamas, getting all those priestesses, just bonuses upon bonuses, stacking up all of those bonuses as well with the age up policy as well. Third age, if I saw correctly, going up with the priestess age up. So kind of just winning the game on the back of scaling. You know, he got a good trade H2 with those jungle bows after taking a really bad trade with those musketeers. And then his opponent Aiken just decided to play H2, which is kind of questionable. Imagine if he got H3 a little bit sooner, but Aiken also getting a nice batch of Hussar out, getting a lot of jungle bows out. Also nice idle and raids. Looked really good there, but like I said, Inca does love extra time. So if you give Inca time, it's almost like Japan, where they just get stronger and stronger. We want to kind of check the age up policy real quick before we head over to some of the more interesting stats. Here we go. So age 3 for Inca was the messenger. So I'm kind of curious to see where he got those 3 priestesses from. The messenger is the fast age up. I'm confused. Interesting. So maybe he did send in those 5 priestesses very fast, or maybe he danced for them with the llamas. That could be. Yeah, maybe he danced for them with the llamas. I would assume that's something he did. Impressive. All resources gathered very close on both sides throughout most of the game. But then towards the end, you can just see the difference. 3 town centers up, and you can just see the extra villages that he had. Boom. 62 to 41. Even though he lost a lot of villages over here, which could have been prevented with the fortresses being built a little bit more passively or defensively. Being a little bit too greedy there. And also not making any units for a long time. Paid the price, but so having so much income and also going for nice raids himself, kind of realizing maybe I lose vills, but as long as I raid, he loses vills. 21 vills, huge raids. 41 down to 21. Incredible raids with those Chimu all across the map. And yeah, we saw those lances kind of having their mouths full in those last few minutes of that game. The H2 policy? Oh, the wise woman got you. So the H2 policy actually giving him those 2 priestesses. Interesting. Oh, sorry, 3 priestesses. Now we know. I was very, curious where he got those priestesses from. So that is, yeah, something that a lot of people have been saying is very viable to go for instead of those, instead of the 2 building travois, go for the priestesses. What do you exactly get with the priestesses? If you think about it, you get the XP trickle, pretty much everything. Is it really worth it in terms of percentage? Like, what do 3 priestesses give you exactly? Does anyone know? Just to kind of give people a rough idea. But yeah, I think that's pretty much everything as of now. We didn't have many fights in the later stage, but in the early stage, you can see Aiken getting a good trade over here in the first fight. But then in the second fight, remassing so heavily and 27 units and then just going down to 3 versus the Jungle Bows, just kind of taking a really, really bad trade. And with the poison damage, you can only do that once because the damage is over time. So it's a lot of damage being dealt to those Musketeers on top of the multiplied damage that they do have. But for now, once again, Aiken versus minimoult. Aiken taking a loss in game number 3. And minimoult taking it home for the Hudson Bay BIGS, currently in 4th place on the ladder. And if we go back to some of the table stats that we saw earlier, which I will show to you or read to you, we can see that Hudson Bay BIGS actually in a very decent spot. I actually said Hudson Bay is in 4th place. That is my bad. I mixed them up. Mandarin squad are in the 4th place with 29 wins, 41 losses, whereas Hudson Bay BIGS are actually in 1st place with 39 wins and 26 losses. So you guys did see that earlier. And yeah, that means minimoult will be picking up more victories for his team. Whereas, Mandarin Duck Squad kind of need to catch up. Only 2 wins off of place number 3. So if they manage to pick up a few more wins in this play or 7, they will kind of be able to, climb the table. So heading into game number 4. Also trying to update the score. Just give me a few seconds. Alright, heading to the next game, we have Russia versus France. Very interesting matchup. We have, of course, minimoult playing French, and we have Aiken playing Russia. On the map, Florida, we see, first things first, Aiken getting a food treasure in his base, 40 coin being awarded to him. One unique thing about Florida is that you do start off with a marketplace, so that's going to kind of enable both players to maybe get the early hunting dogs, needing 50 wood and 50 coin for the marketplace upgrade. Of course, minimoult in the color red on the bottom side, looking to herd these ostriches, turkeys, my bad, into his TC range. And very nice herding by him. And yeah, with those CDB, 25 extra percentage in terms of gathering, building his house. Also has some villagers gathering wood. We see 2 villagers on wood. Might go for the early TP. But usually with France, you kind of go for the TP very fast and then you chop for the house later, seeing as you don't need the house as of now. So very curious to see what minimoult does now. We could see a age 1 dock potentially, but I'm not quite sure. He's looking to maybe pick up a 75 wood treasure. So this is a strange start as of now. Not really something I'm very used to. Definitely gonna get the hunting dogs with the villagers on coin. Has 150 wood. With this 75 wood, he will have enough wood for the Okay, not quite sure what minimoult's doing here. This seems a little bit strange, but we're gonna head over to Russia and we're gonna check in on minimoult a little bit later. Aiken on the other side picking up a wood treasure himself, or a 90 coin treasure, apologies, guarded by 2 alligators. Also, of course, playing Russia, going to get his hunting dogs very early. If we check the text, I'd assume he would get that with that coin treasure very, very soon. 8 villagers for him, double training or double queuing 3 settlers in his town center. Also, of course, needs to select his deck so we can see what he might be heading into in terms of strategy in the later stages of this game. So yeah, now minimoult with 200 wood in age 1. No TP out for him, and this is an awkward play by him. A lot of the times you see the France Explorer just build the TP in the first seconds of the game and then put 3 or 2 villagers onto wood and then get the wood for the house. Or sometimes we saw, Passy in a previous series go for an early dock. But now instead, maybe picking up this wood treasure, 40 wood, and maybe we'll still build the TP just a lot later. Does have the hunting dogs affecting all of these CDBs. 12 CDBs out on the field. Once again, I will mention that they do have a 25% in terms of gathering, killing a sheep as well, which Florida does inhabit. They have a lot of livestock, or it has a lot of livestock. TP is being built for minimoult on the bottom side, but very late TP. You have to imagine he missed like at least, I would assume, 2 passes of XP, which is quite big. Maybe even 3 passes, to be honest. 2 minutes, 30 seconds into the game, but we'll get a decent age of time with those sheep. And of course, playing France with the CDB having a lot of extra income. Aiken on the other side might be looking to age himself. 14 villager age up. Looks to be coming in. Did get the hunting dogs, so just to confirm, he did get the hunting dogs with that 90 coin treasure, and now having 800 food available, but no sheep gathered by him. Does not scout most of the sheep, I would assume. Yeah, very unlucky for him. Would have had that age up a few seconds earlier, maybe even, 15, 20 seconds earlier if he did manage to get maybe 2 or 3 sheeps, but instead getting a 3-minute age up. Aging up with the quartermaster, I would assume, was picking up a treasure over here. 100 coin guarded by 2 bandit blowgunners, which one of them he did already kill. Check out the treasure that minimoult just picked up. A 40 wood treasure being picked up from minimoult, which, yeah, definitely can help him out in the later stages of the game. Maybe help him get that early steel traps or even a second TP if he wants to. And yeah, now also freeing another coin treasure. 40 coin, I think, will be awarded to him if he does kill this bandit blowgunner, which might set him up for a nice age 2 hussar semi-fortress. Something we see a lot of French players do against a lot of different civilizations. But for now, switching most of his CDB back to food from wood. 2 villagers on wood, or 1 villager on wood, 9 on food, and 3 on coin. Getting his placer mines nice and early. 75 food and 75 wood has been invested into the placer mines. Aiken also scouting another treasure. 40 coin will also be awarded to him if he does pick that up. And both players just trying to get the maximum amount of stuff out of Florida. Just kind of squeeze the map dry, get all the early game treasures, and then kind of see who has the better start. And now, speaking of start, we see the first sign of the strategy that Russia might be looking to get. And there seems to be an early blockhouse placed in the middle of the map, and we can expect a Strele batch to pop out of here, or even a Musketeer batch to pop out with a 5 Cossack shipment in H2. And now queuing up those villages, has almost enough food to queue those Strele. 375 food does need to be invested into the Strele, as well as 100 wood, and could be a nice little timing push by him if he manages to get it out on time. Let's see if he queues in those Cossack. Let's have those 400 crates worth of wood in his base, queuing up those Cossack and training musketeers. So very interesting that he makes musketeers. One thing to note about Russia is that they do have a little bit worse musketeers in comparison to other civilizations, so probably the worst musketeers in the game. And now that he's playing against France, sometimes you'd kind of see that France makes a barracks himself, very comfortable in H2, similar to Germany, just so much eco in H2 with those early CDBs or those early settler wagons, able to kind of remain in H2 and just kind of play the H2 war, but instead opting for the stable. And something we talked about earlier with those coin treasures, setting him up for that nice hussar semi-fortress. And I mean, will it be enough? I feel, he's going to get some nice raids in, but he's going to also have to kind of find a way to deal with these musketeers, which will constantly be pouring into the base of the French. CDBs now doing some damage. One thing about the CDBs is that they do have a lot of HP extra, and they also have the ability to be upgraded in terms of HP with the Greycoats. Cossack also coming in, and yep, nice idle by Aiken as of now. Managed to get all of the CDBs, pretty much every single CDB, into the town center, and this is exactly what Aiken wants to do. And with five Cossack and 5 Musketeers able to do that, that is impressive. And I feel like minimoult should have probably just gotten his Greycoats a lot sooner, and he wouldn't even need to go idle. These 5 Musketeers won't be able to kill these CDB. You can see minimoult actually using his CDB to kind of fight these Musketeers, which, by the way, have 30 HP less than your average Musketeer. So not only do they have less damage, but they also have less HP. The one thing they do need to be worried about are those Cossacks not getting a full idle once again with the Cossacks and the Musketeers, and training some Hussar of his own, which I guess are very strong. The French Hussar, of course, being the standard Hussar, but just having so much HP on those Hussars, 220 HP, as well as, of course, 30 hand attack, will be able to kind of deal a lot of damage to not only the Cossack, but also these kind of weaker Musketeers. And all he really needs to do is just hold off this first push so he can kind of go to H3, but not getting that full batch out, which is very unfortunate. So not really having enough units to kind of deal with these Cossack as well as these Musketeers. Double blockhouse coming in for minimoult, or should I say Aiken, apologies. 700 wood to follow as well, and nice idle with those Cossacks, sending in the 700 coin. A lot of sheep for the side of minimoult will be able to give him that extra food that he does need. Looks like Aiken looking to do some damage with these Musketeers. Burn out some houses, kind of pop cap his opponent. He knows that France kind of doesn't have the best wood income in terms of H2 unless they send in the 700 wood. So if he gets his house down, he's going to force his opponent to either buy for that wood or ship in the 700 wood, which he is eventually going to need to do. Either the 700 wood or the 1k wood in H3, but Cossack now snaring into some of these Hussar as well as the Musketeers just doing some damage. But all in all, this is looking really good for Aiken so far. Keeping most of his Musketeers alive, keeping most of his Cossack alive, also kind of making the double blockhouse as well. And see how he defends these raids versus these Hussar. Does not have the Great Coats on his villagers, meaning that these Hussar would do a lot of damage to these villagers. Already picking off a villager, which, yeah, very exposed out there. Needs to maybe herd this in a little bit further to his TC, but now just going to back off, taking the house down. And minimoult currently on 30 population, and no population space available to him. And you can just see right now he has no way of getting that wood, and he doesn't want to chop, and he also doesn't want to buy for the wood. And as of now, this is a terrible game for minimoult. He is having a nightmare of a time as of now, sending in the 700 wood, and this might be the game changer that he needs. He will maybe be able to burn that wood and build a barracks and kind of be able to defend against these Musketeers. But as soon as he does that, I feel like Russia might decide to train some Strele to deal with those Musketeers. Scout for minimoult, doing the most right now in invisibility, scouting some of these Cossack positionings. Okay, to maybe raid his opponent towards the backhand. I'm just going to kind of show you guys what minimoult sees so we can maybe tell what's going through his brain. What he's maybe looking to do, what position he might take in terms of raiding. Blunderbuss on the CDB, I would assume. Otherwise, I wouldn't assume that minimoult would be so aggressive with these CDBs. No blunderbuss on the CDB, so no extra attack damage on the CDB, but they have a bonus attack anyways in comparison to a normal villager. 11 range attack on the CDBs versus 3 range attack on the Russian villagers. So just CDB just being so strong, and even picking up these very low HP Musketeers. But each time they have to fight on these Musketeers means each time they are not gathering resources, which minimoult needs as of now because he's looking to age, and he does have those sheep in his base, which might come in clutch here. Might actually be able to age behind this if he plays his cards correctly, but very surprised that he was able to get that much food out and that much coin out without even eating those sheep. So minimoult in a prime position to go to H3 and just needs that extra coin. Now losing his marketplace, won't even be able to sell for that coin, which is very unfortunate because he needs the H3. He doesn't want to be idle for too long. He's been idle for like 4 times now with his entire economy, and this is huge because he just needs 200 coin or not even 120 coin to go H3. And now that he's lost his marketplace, this is a big victory for Aiken. Many times you see Russia versus Dutch is a big back and forth in terms of defending and in terms of kind of, you know, trying to get to the H3. But as soon as the marketplace goes down, the Dutch player crumbles. And I feel like you could say the same for the French player. Managing to use those CDB to kind of counter the push of the Russian. And maybe just going to switch most of his CDB onto the coin mines. Get that coin as fast as he can. You can see instantly rebuilding the marketplace with the 700 wood that he did send in. And also building the barracks, which should have come in a lot sooner. Stable start was definitely not the preferred start for minimoult. Maybe just kind of regretting that now. It does have those Hussars still alive. But not really being able to do much with those Hussar. Maybe the Great Coats available for Aiken. No, not getting the Great Coats, but might be okay. Villagers quite close to the TC, even very close to the blockhouse. Just gotta maybe right-click this Hussar. Oh, wow. Here we see the famous micro here, trying to cancel the villager animation so the Hussar doesn't take any damage. minimoult just doing the most here. Absolutely beautiful play here. You can see both players doing the absolute maximum. And I would assume H3 now coming in for minimoult. And yep, this is pretty much all he wants to do. But losing CDBs. One CDB going down. Second CDB... Oh, wow. Almost going down. Very low HP. I would assume 20 HP on that last CDB entering the town center. And, I mean, CDBs are very expensive. And losing CDB to the Russian military mass is definitely going to kind of hurt you in the later stages of the game. But also losing a few villages of his own. But I feel like if anything, these idols are going to hurt the most because 15 villager idols this entire game is painful to watch. And you can just see the score limit or the score number is just on par right now because even though Russia has the inferior eco, now with all of these idols, he's able to kind of not only deny villager eco, but he's also kind of able to pick off villagers here and there. So his eco is just steadily able to catch up, and on top of that, he also trains villagers faster. 3 villagers in the time that it takes to train 2 villagers. 3 blocks of villagers being trained each time. So, you know, the longer he plays this, the better it's going to get for him. And now we do have his opponent in H3, but minimoult, what is he going to send in first? Sending in the skirmishes, might even send in the falconets or the goons or the cuirassiers behind this. Does have the stable available, training in goons from the stable, looking to maybe do some damage before these skirmishes pop. Needs to kill these Cossack because skirmishes versus Cossack is, yeah, that's definitely a deal that you don't want to accept. And look at this, Aiken now pouring in with the Cossack, kind of expecting that the skirmishes will come out from the town center. And as a result, you can actually see minimoult cancelling the skirmishes. That would have been a suicide right there. So not only does he get H3 at a very, very slow time, but now he's kind of... he doesn't know what to send in, and now losing the house, he's cancelled his skirmisher shipment, doesn't have the population space to build, to send in his next shipment, so this is just horrible for him. What is he gonna do? He builds the house behind his base with those villagers that he did manage to sneak out, but will it be enough? I feel like now that this town center is getting right-clicked, already maybe using his minimen, will he have enough time to kind of sending that 5 goon shipment and also maybe trade some units from his barracks? But as of now, just kind of ejecting those CDB, looking to do some damage, but how long will he be able to do this? I feel like he's just going to get worse and worse, but nonetheless, managing to kind of fend off that one push. But I feel like Aiken might be coming back for seconds and still needs to eat those sheep, which do have 200 food each. Check out some of the stuff for Aiken. We see he's on 27 vills, so not the most vills for him. Doesn't even have a TP. Losing a lot of vills to those Hussar potentially. Might have to catch some of those raids in the post game or just be more attentive in terms of raiding. But yeah, now that back off has kind of given minimoult a little bit more time to wait for those goons to pop. Now they do pop out, but right on top of the Australian, if Aiken was on top of that, he might have been able to pick off some of these goons, but nonetheless, he just plays cards correctly with those goons and just buy himself some time to maybe send in skirmishes, which is likely going to be the shipment to follow. But I'm going to eat my words. Sending in the cuirassiers, the French cav coming out with the splash damage might be something that he needs right now. Very good against the Strele, but also very good seeing as they're H3 versus H2 musketeers, losing 2 CDB in that one fight and now paying the price of having a lot of CDB, low HP from all of those villager pops that he did at the town center. And this is a, I mean, this is a game and a half. I'm not sure how this is going to end for minimoult. This could be very good, but this could also be very bad, seeing as he does not have the miniman pop, I would assume. And now all of those CDB kind of in the TC, not having enough food kind of to gather the skirmisher or the food needed for the skirmishes, but he does have those sheep, and if he just ejected a few villagers to the side and ate those sheep, he would be able to train skirmishes, which would be very good against Australia. And now getting flanked from both sides, the Cossack and melee snaring onto these goons, as well as Australia from the other side applying multiplied damage to these goons, losing 10 goons there in that fight. That was so unnecessary. He needed those goons so much, not only for the anti-cap, but then also kind of to defend the skirmishes and also deal damage to the Cossack. Very terrible play by minimoult. But now finally eating those sheep, which could have just been eaten a little bit sooner. And this is a very awkward position. Is kind of on par in terms of score-wise. But, you know, whenever you play against Russia and your similar amount of score with the better eco on paper, you definitely need to think to yourself, oof, is this game going well for me? Losing a CDB there as well as a second CDB. And, you know, I don't want to be a pessimist, but as soon as I saw the TP not being built in H1, I was questioning a lot of things for minimoult here. Not the preferred opening I've seen a lot of pro players take. Skirmish is also being sent in now, but TC also on 5k HP, maybe setting up for an H3 for Aiken to Falconet push. Could we see something like that? Chris do go for a raid here, which, wow, we saw 27 vills earlier, now 32 vills. Maybe managing to pick up a few vills, but now getting picked off by these Cossack, which is unfortunate because he needed those for the Strele. But I feel like maybe if he picked off a few vills, he will be happy about this trade. Nice micro from both players. Picking off a lot of Cossack, but also losing those cuirassiers. But all in all, minimoult on par with the Russian score, and now having a lot of time to kind of maybe remaster stuff. But I think Russia's not going to be too afraid because he's got these 2 blockhouses in the middle of the map. And I mean, his eco's not the best. I mean, shipment-wise, obviously got a lot of stuff to send in. Hasn't sent in the Boyas, which would have given the extra hit points and the attack damage needed. But I feel like maybe he didn't need that when he's not fighting. But he was fighting a lot on the TC. One does have to ask the question, what would have happened if he had those extra stats on his units? Shipment ready for him, but I mean, his eco doesn't look that great. I must say, like, I feel like I've seen Russia be a lot more scarier 15 minutes into the game. Just maybe losing so many units, having to train so many units, maybe a little bit idle in terms of villager, also losing a few villagers to those Hussar raids. But look at this, going in for seconds, or going in for round, what is this, 4? With those Cossack looking to idle once again, and once again looking to right click this, but maybe we can see something from minimoult. Does he have a big pop here? And I don't think we see a big pop, and now with the CDBs once again idle, and look at this, Aiken actually kind of fearing that there might be some skirmishes out in the field with those Hussar, kind of looking to maybe pick them off, realizing that all of those goons did go down earlier. But the cuirassiers for minimoult now slowing onto the Strelly, the musketeers kind of out of position, but now using those musketeers in melee to deal with those cuirassiers, which, yeah, beautiful play by him. Does pop the Minutemen. He still had the Minutemen, now popping out the CDB from his town center as well. The skirmishes out of position, but the reinforcements for Aiken will be too strong here. I don't think there's going to be enough here. The reinforcing skirmishes from the home city come in as well. Will be very good against the Strelly and the musketeers, but the Cossack mass is dead. You have to remember, most of these CDB are low HP. They do have the great coats, will be able to tank a lot of damage, but all in all, it's not about who wins the fight, it's about who has the better eco behind this fight. And even if Russia takes a bad trade here, I feel like his eco is going to be a little bit better, and I don't think he's going to take the worst trade. Now, great micro on those Cossack, kind of coming behind those skirmishes, dealing the multiplied damage they have against infantry units, and just being very cost effective as well. Minutemen also going down, and all of these villagers kind of idle for minimoult. So even if he does manage to hold this, these villagers, how many? 17 villagers right now, 14 villagers not gathering from resources is just a huge thing here. But we have to see what Aiken decides to do. Does he just decide to kind of go H3, or does he decide to stay H2 after this kind of a faulty defense or faulty push of him? A lot of skirmishes still alive for the side of the French, and I mean, gonna be happy that he got those skirmishes still alive, but the musketeers also still alive for Aiken, and just gonna kind of squeeze every last damage output that he can do against these skirmishes before maybe retreating. Now Cossack coming in as well, and this is gonna be beautiful, but the TC is still there. Could maybe eject a few villagers or inject a few villagers into the town center, do some extra damage versus Cossack. Doesn't really have any anti-cav, but he does have the CDBs, which is pretty much his only anti-cav. Even a Minuteman alive. Oh my god, one Minuteman still alive with the multiplied damage versus the Cossack. That is beautiful. 5 Cossack now going down, 2 still alive. Sorry about that, I said 5 Cossack going down, but 1 still alive. Looking to maybe tell his friends not to ever push the French base. CDB too strong. 243 HP. Still alive. But, I mean, we talked about this. It's not about winning the fight. It's about where's your eco behind this. And you have to kind of think to yourself, France has been idle, like, he's been idle so long. And he's been idle for so many times. So it must be some sort of victory in Aiken's mind right now. He might be like, okay, there's no way his eco is good. And also denying a lot of shipments, but, you know, we speak of shipments, we see the 1k coin now being sent in, which all minimoult really would need to do is kind of just put most of his villagers on food, which he still has, but instead kind of calling GG. And I feel like if he had all of his CDB on food, he would kind of be able to kind of use that 1k coin and make cuirassiers, but just doesn't have the time to do so. Cossacks coming in strong as well as the Strelly, and only going to get worse for minimoult and better for Aiken, having all his villagers still alive. Of course, a lot of villagers still alive. So something, you know, that's the thing. When I look at Russia, you see this and you think to yourself, okay, Russia did a good job, but it's very hard to do what he did this game. And minimoult made a lot of mistakes as well. So you kind of ask the question, would this have worked if minimoult had kind of played a little bit better in terms of getting the early TP out, not suiciding his goons and stuff like that? But you can also kind of say maybe Aiken outplaying his opponent with the positioning of those Strelly down here, picking off those goons, and also kind of great positioning with those musketeers against those cuirassiers, and not taking the worst trades and also defending those raids. But yeah, very hard to do this with Russia. I feel like it's not the easiest and can really backfire for you, especially against an H3 civilization like France. But all in all, getting good idols, picking off a lot of villagers, and very attentive, shutting on the hunts. You can see the explorer over here scouting this area. So nice play by him, and yep, picking up game number 4. I would assume game number 4 going towards Aiken on the Mandarin Duck squad in 4th place, needing every victory that they can kind of accumulate versus Mini playing for the Hudson Bay BIGS. And maybe we can check out some of the stats of, you know, the villagers in this game, because I feel like that might be very interesting. I think this is going to be the most interesting graph we see. We can see minimoult kind of idle in terms of villagers for a long time. So not only is he idle in his town center, but he's also not training villagers because he's not gathering food to train them. And the thing about CDBs is that, sure, they have good gathering rates, but they're very expensive as well. So 125 food for a single CDB if we check here, or 120 food. Apologies. Means he needs more food. Whereas Russia trains 3 villagers faster and for cheaper. So 40 food less than your average European civ in the 3 batches. But yes, look at these idols coming in for Aiken. And also the villager pickoffs. I feel like that's the big victory here. 1 CDB here, 2 CDB there, 3 CDB there. That's huge. That is big. Like, CDB are tanky for a reason because they have high value. So when they die, it's a big, big loss. Losing another CDB there, 2 CDB there, another CDB. Wow, incredible. Yeah, you can just tell these raids are insane. At the end, minimoult has 16 vills versus Russia's 42 vills. And the score is still even, so it kind of just shows you the potential that France has in H3 versus Russia H2. What a game. What a game. Very interesting game. Something I've seen many times before, resource-wise. Also, 21k for Aiken in the end. 10k for minimoult. So just outscaling towards the entire game. One last thing I do want to show you guys. Of course, I think this might be interesting as well. It's just the military. You can see barely any fighting going on. Barely any military units being trained for minimoult. And kind of in a way, you see Aiken's units just go down. So it's just TC fire CDBs. He's got 6 units. How does he go from 6 units, you know, killing 10 units here, 5 units here, Cossack there? Like, look at this fight. 45 units for Aiken versus 23 units of minimoult. And just losing everything. Yep, could have been a different game, but well played to Aiken and GG indeed. And for now, heading into the next game, just give me a few secs because I also need to kind of load up the replays. A lot of the games are being played or were being played whilst we cast them. So I'm just going to have to ask for the next replays. This is a play all 7, so total of 7 games that we will be able to watch. Update the score before we head into the next game. What a series so far. 2-2 for both players. And yep, very close, very compact. And gonna take a sip before we head into game number 5. Sorry about that. Let's go. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. ESOC community, lovely fans of Aiken and minimoult. Let me hear you loud and proud if you are for the side of Aiken, playing the British civilization for the Team Mandarin Dog Squad, or let me know if you are for minimoult on the bottom side of Dakota, playing Spain for the Hudson Bay BIGS. Scores are quite even as of now, so this is a very close series, and you can definitely see both players kind of just want to go ahead and win the most games that they can. This is not the last game. We have another 3 games to be played, so yes, definitely something to stay tuned to. So get yourself some snacks, and yeah, we're seeing a lot of high level stuff from both players in these games. For now, we see minimoult playing the Spanish. We kind of talked about Spain previously on Sierra's Pampas not having that extra TP or having a single TP, kind of affecting their XP curve. But now that you have the map Dakota with the 4 TP line in the middle, he's definitely going to go ahead and grab himself that TP on in the first minute of the game. And you can just see that's going to be very nice for him and give him his shipments a lot faster, which kind of synergizes well with the design of the Spanish. On the other side, we see Aiken, also known as Tit, going to put a TP of his own. And a lot of the times you see a TP being built from the British side, but usually it's built when you kind of expect to see a Virginia company strategy. And if we check his deck, as soon as he does select it, we're going to have to see if he has that card in his deck. And I guess talk a little bit more about it as soon as we do see if he does have it in his deck. Treasure being picked up for minimoult. Cherokee riflemen looking to be freed from these bandits. Starting dog for Spain, something that they do get in the early stages, and 15 hand attack on that dog makes it very, very easy to kind of kill your enemy's explorer, especially like explorers that need to build the TP, like the German explorer, for example, or even the British explorer. 45 XP is definitely a tasty snack, and now having that extra Cherokee rifleman will be able to do a lot of damage if he does manage to kind of cross paths with the British explorer. 70 food of cranberries looking to be picked up by Minimoult, kind of looking to add that to the total stockpile of 800 food needed for the Spanish Age 2, which is pretty fast already. So the fact that he's getting that food treasure is, yeah, a very big win for him. He can doing something similar, perhaps instead of a 70 food treasure, actually picking up, you know, a better bargain, 90 food treasure, a drift of terrapin. I'm not quite sure what that is, but it doesn't sound like something I would like to eat personally. But 90 food is a big treasure for Aiken, and yeah, already kind of close to getting his Age 2. And one thing about British is that they also get a very fast Age 2 themselves. Might age up with the governor, but we'll have to see that a little bit later. Want to check his deck, and we don't see the Virginia Company in his deck as of now. It does have the Tawny normal, so going for the TP, maybe just for an Age 3 setup, I would assume. Meaning that he's going to accumulate a lot of XP for his Age 3 shipments, as well as sending in that 700, 600 wood potentially in Age 2. 100 food picked up for Minimoult, but is he already aging? I don't think he is. No, he wasn't aging, so that 100 food is going to be invested very, very wisely, and very slow to age up, but aging up with the logistician right now. Wow, so this is something we haven't seen in a while, and this is going to be very spicy build order for Minimoult, something that I haven't seen since they nerfed this in the recent patches, and something that used to be very, very strong, and I feel like it's still considered to be very strong if executed well. They talk about the explorer crossing paths with the Spanish explorer, and now if we turn off the fog of war, we can see that Minimoult does see this treasure being picked up, and he's got a lot of new friends. Not only does he have the dog, but he also has the Cherokee rifleman, but looks like the explorer will take some damage, but not before picking up the 80 food treasure guarded by those two bears. So even if Aiken does lose his explorer here and gives his opponent 45 XP, it's not without a victory of his own, getting that food treasure, which Minimoult would have loved to pick up himself. ATP also being sent in for Minimoult, which does reduce the cost of his TPs. 120 wood for a single TP, also upgrading the HP from 2,500 to 3,000, and also giving them a 30 range attack, or sorry, a 25 range attack. Logistician. One thing about the Logistician is that it does cost 900 food, so it does cost 100 food more, and I'm sure a lot of people don't know what the Logistician does, but what it does, it gives you extra resource crates. So if you kind of know anything about Spain, you know that the Spanish gold gives you 360 gold for each shipment that you send in H3, and the Logistician kind of works in a similar way, as it gives you food, wood, and coin, if I'm not mistaken, for every shipment that you send in with the age up, but only for the age 1 shipments. So if you're kind of wondering, bruh, he has a lot of age 1 cards, like infinite wood, infinite coin, it's because he wants to send in a lot of age 1 cards, and he's also sending in the ATP as well because he needs a lot of XP on top of that. Therefore, he wants to build the TPs, now sending in the 300 wood, and if we check out the exact stats, you can see in age 1, if he sends in, for example, the economic theory, or let's go to the Fourier, for example, which is an eco card, he would get 150 food, 100 wood, and 75 coin on top of getting this eco card in terms of crates, which also, if I'm not mistaken, just instantly goes to his resource stockpile. So it's not even crates that he has to gather, it just goes straight to his inventory. Now with that 300 wood coming in, of course, getting the 300 wood straight to his inventory might build another TP, as well as, of course, the forward barracks. And I feel like we're going to see a lot of H2 play here, getting his steel traps from his marketplace. But I just want to check out what Brits is doing on the other side. So Aiken, of course, aging up the governor, getting not only the outpost, but also the 200 coin, which he's already spent 50 coin on, maybe getting the, I'm not quite sure what he got, the musketeers potentially. 3 vills on coin, 14 on food. Very nice macro by him. Very precise macro. Just looking to get enough resources for those musketeers out from his barracks. And yeah, doesn't really know what his opponent is doing. You can see his map is pretty much dark. So he has no idea what his opponent is doing. No idea what the age up is. His explorer is down on the floor and hasn't even scouted anything. So he doesn't know what to expect here. And even though he doesn't know what to expect, one thing that Aiken can do is he can check the deck of the Spanish and see that the Spanish player does have all of those shipments in age 1, which kind of indicates that he might be going for a logistician playstyle, and he would be bang on the money And you can already see with the barracks, of course, very early barracks, the musketeers being trained. He's very much prepared. Pike's now coming up from the barracks, looking to deny this training post built for the British side, and also following this up with some musketeers of his own, training 4 dogs with his explorer, which looks to be giving him the edge, I would assume, in these H2 fights. You have to kind of just imagine these dogs scale as well. So 15 hand attack H1, 18 hand attack in H2, and it just only goes up. 18 villagers for Minimo. And I guess one great thing about the logistician is when you do it with the Spanish is it's kind of like it scales so well because you can also kind of go H3 and then send in the Spanish gold, right? So even if you're kind of like, H2 is boring, I want to go H3, he can do that. Send in, you know, any shipment that gives him, you know, any H1 shipment that gives him, of course, resources, which all of them do. He can just easily go H1 and even go stagecoach behind this as well. So not only will he have a lot of units in H2 with all of those extra resources, but he's also going to go for a stagecoach, which is going to kind of further increase his, you know, eco. And also sending in eco cards in H1 give him resources and up his eco even more. So yeah, really nice play by him. You can see he's burning down this 4th TP, looking to build it with the 500 wood that he does have. Second 700 food as well. Still needs to train a villager, kind of idle at the moment. Getting a little bit of a raid in here. We're on the side of Aiken, looking to pick up a few villagers, but actually getting counterplayed by the Cherokee riflemen, rescued from that treasure, as well as the musketeers from the barracks. And stagecoach also being researched from Minimo, so exactly what we are kind of mentioning, that he was going for that stagecoach. And I have to see what Aiken is kind of looking to do in terms of reacting towards this logistician playstyle. As of now, gonna deny the TP, which is a good step, but I think he needs to do a lot more. One great thing about the British civilization is that a lot of civilizations don't have the eco that the British have, meaning that for a lot of players, this would be very hard to deal with. But the fact that Aiken is kind of in his base, he's able to send in the 600, 700 wood, get like 12 manor houses, which is the equivalent of 12 vills, and potentially also the 5 vills, which is then a 17 vill in total. He's on 39 vills versus 20 vills of the Spanish right now. So even with those extra resources that Spain has, he's also like really, really decent in terms of having, you know, a good eco. And you can see that in the score as well, like ahead in score. And yeah, probably one of the better civs to play against Logistician. Just gonna see what these musketeers are heading towards. But the only downside about this is that he's now playing against a stagecoach, which kind of puts the time on Aiken, because Aiken now is okay because he has hunts, right? He has food. But as soon as those hunts run out, he's gonna have 40 vills, 45 vills, or how many vills he's gonna have not gathering food, whereas the stagecoach is pretty much always trickling in resources, as well as, of course, those crates. So Aiken needs to kind of mass up a big army, hussar, skirmishes, or longbows, musketeers, and go for a big push. And maybe we'll see exactly that from Aiken, now going with 18 musketeers towards the mid-map and just looking to do some damage. And this might be a good window for him, but also has a lot of units to kind of fight against, crossbows and musketeers being trained for Minimo. So better unit composition for him, but the British do have the better musketeers with the cards, which he hasn't sent in yet. But now just having more musketeers might actually be able to kind of get a good trade here. Might need his explorer in the fight to kind of snare, but his explorer William Cook is taking or took a lot of damage in the early ages, is now down on the floor and yeah, out of action at the moment. Very curious to see who win this fight. You have to imagine crossbows do have multiplied damage against these musketeers, but I feel like the abundance of musketeers just being close range are just going to be enough here for the British side. With the crossbows, you kind of have to kind of kite. You have extra range than the musketeers, so 4 extra range, which I guess does help you in the later stages of these fights. As you can see now, just from both sides, kind of using the range difference that he has on those crossbows versus musketeers. We saw something similar in the Inca versus Spanish game. Wow, a triple kill for those musketeers. Beautiful micro there. I would assume it definitely wasn't the attack move. I don't think sometimes a lot of these professional players actually go ahead and micro each and every musketeer just to get those extra kills, which can just mean everything in these, you know, very close fights. And ideally, Minimo should be in a good position here because Minimo's got crossbows versus musketeers, which are way better than these musketeers, but musketeers are just so low HP, and you really have to kite with these crossbows, which he isn't doing, therefore losing more crossbows than he, you know, might be willing to. But a lot of money behind this stagecoach also available for him. Might just be okay with this trade all in all. More crossbows coming out from his double barracks, and stagecoach as well behind this, trickling in a lot of resources, wood to be precise. A bit of a raid there from those musketeers. 25 vills for the Spanish, but raid not in full motion just of now. Nice marketplace being placed, giving him line of sight. And I guess we also heard a stable being built from Aiken, so also making a stable, kind of looking to deal with those hussar, or sorry, those crossbows with those hussar. And also setting in the 700 coin, which kind of indicates that he's going to switch most of his villagers onto food and just go for that big timing with the coin and the stable now being built. Minimoult on the other side going for some raids of his own. 5 pike out on the field, looking to burn down some manor houses as well, which is very questionable, I guess. Looking to pop or population cap his opponent, but also looking to get that free XP, which these houses do have a lot of. If you kill a house, you get 81 XP, which is definitely something that he's gonna love with his logistician. Also looking for some raids, realizing that this is pretty much the only place Aiken has to go in terms of food. I could go over here, but these hunts are very, very far and very exposed. Explore down for the Spanish side, so needs to rebuild that trading post. And yeah, you can see most of the villages for Aiken are on this area, or in this area, should I say, kind of hovering around these elk. And this is pretty much all Aiken has right now. This is kind of what's holding him into the game, are these hunts, this coin mine. And thanks to these, you know, hussars and thanks to these musketeers that he still has alive, he's able to kind of just maybe be a little bit more aggressive and just buy himself time to kind of herd these ones in closer to his base and just have that extra hunt. And we did talk about that big push that needs to happen, and I don't think it's happened yet. I feel like there's just been minor pushes as of now, and I guess this is a good trade for Aiken, picking off all of those, of course, pikes and those musketeers. Minimoult just being so reckless with his units, just losing so many units, and now kind of being idle with his units as well. And something that he should be doing is kind of heading over here and also shutting down this. He has more units than his opponent and kind of giving Aiken all the free time to kind of run him around and just use his villagers very wisely. And this is time that Brits is just going to take. Hussars, of course, being very scary for Minimoult, so maybe just kind of waiting to see if he can find a way to train some anti-cav. Miniman is popped from the town center, looking to get a nice little trade here. And even though he doesn't have the right amount of units needed versus these musketeers and crossbows, he's just going to take a good trade and just back off. You can see he's strictly only using those hussar to kill the crossbows and just avoiding all of those musketeers. But the Rodoleros in the backline coming in so clutch for Minimoult. That is a beautiful play by him, sending in those Rodoleros and also kind of using those Rodoleros very wisely. I would assume he actually trained those Rodoleros from his barracks. What a beautiful play. And yeah, almost lost a lot of units there. The hussars being so strong for the British, 320 HP, and also could potentially send in the cav combat, make them a little bit more stronger, but not a better or not a moment wasted for those Rodoleros. Golden entrance right there on those hussar, but a very good micro by Aiken, kind of pulling those hussars back. Some of them are a little bit low HP, or 3/4 HP, but I think it's going to be enough HP to kind of win, or maybe do a lot of damage in this fight. But I say that more dogs being trained, used against these musketeers, the musketeers of the Spanish side in the back line with the rods in the front like the tank. The crossbows are kind of dwindling as well. A lot of crossbows going down in that previous fight, and this is that one big push we talked about. The hussar now doing a lot of damage and also tanking a lot of damage. Nice micro, pulling them back and forth, just kind of putting in the front line to tank a lot of range damage from these units. But the musketeer mass also starting to kind of dwindle on the side of Aiken, and the crossbows now getting to work with the multiplied damage. But is this a misclick here by Minimoult, putting his crossbows in the front line, kind of in melee range of these musketeers? More reinforcing units coming out, the musketeers, as well as, of course, longbows being sent in from the British side. But all in all, this is a good fight for Aiken. The hussars still alive, killing all of the crossbows, and now it's musketeers versus musketeers, and this could go really well for the Brits with the reinforcing longbows that he has. Just needs to back off and just wait for that rematch, and I feel like he's going to be in a good position. But as of now, Minimoult managing to keep most of his units alive and kind of just... Wow, missionaries are being trained from the church, sending in the unction card, which is going to be maybe a game changer here for Minimoult, using these missionaries to kind of boost the attack of these musketeers. So sending in this card will allow his missionaries to kind of have that aura effect that you see a lot of Japan daimyos have, boosting the musketeers attack, which is a genius play because you have to think about it. Age 2 Spain have no cards for musketeers, or he has no cards in his deck for the musketeers. And if you switch off to the side of Aiken, you can see him playing the Brits. He has 2 cards for the musketeers, meaning that eventually when he does send those cards in, which he's already sent 1 in, those cards are going to just be the difference for the British in terms of fighting. So now that he's got the missionaries up, there we go. He's got the musketeers with you know, even more range attack than the British. So that's just such a beautiful play by him, and just realizing exactly where this game is heading and kind of going for the right decision there, or making the right decision there, but also kind of losing that fight, leaving Brits now with 51 vills, just continuously outgathering his opponent, I would assume, in terms of villager eco. I'm not so sure how you would kind of measure the eco in terms of stagecoach and of course logistician, but I feel like now minimoult might just also slowly be running out of shipments, but I might have to eat my words, sending in 300 wood once again. Still H2 for both players, and just kind of a 3.6k score behind on the side of minimoult. So having economic theory on those villages as well. So having less villages, but has 36 villages with not only Furia, but also economic theory. So you have to kind of think to yourself, 1.30 food gathering rates, or 1.30, not sure why I said it so strange, versus I guess what would it be, 1.12, 1.09 on the British side. So severely out gathering in terms of the pure villager stats. And you have to imagine economic theory does not just apply to food, but it also applies to wood and coin, whereas Fury is strictly for food gathering. But now Brits looking to push outside of his base, has the longbows available to him, as well as the Hussar as well, and the Musketeers in a mass of 18 with HP combat as well as attack combat coming in. And this could be a game deciding fight if we do see one burning down that barracks. But minimoult not too worried, does have that barracks still alive on the bottom side, also having, you know, of course the wood sent in and going for big raids on the side of Aiken, looking to kind of trim down the numbers with those Hussar, but needs to be careful. This is the risk that you run when you kind of raid with Hussar against Spain, is that the rods will be very speedy and will be on your tail. 6 movement speed on those rods, having multipliers in high heights of 3.5 against melee cav. So very decent unit to make against those Hussar raids. And a lot of the times I've watched Roblox games just kind of, you know, pop out those Rodoleros right on top of a Hussar mass and just kind of deny so many resources from killing those Hussar. But yeah, this is gonna be a very close fight, and I guess I feel like you could maybe say, I don't know, maybe you can check out some of the shipments for both players. No eco shipments being sent in for the British, doesn't really have anything in his deck. I say that, never mind, he does have the sustainable agriculture, but that's not going to help him right now because he's still got hunts. He needs something to kind of boost his hunting rate. But if he switches to mill, I feel like if he switches to mills now, that's going to be awful for him. So definitely looking to kind of squeeze the map dry and use as many resources as he can to make units. And now we see the Hussars reaching a very decisive mass. Maybe 9 Hussars, not the scariest, but I'm going to be assured that he's going to train some more. We can see some Rodoleros from minimoult, just a few blows being exchanged from both sides. But I think these blows will be kind of favored for minimoult with those missionaries in the backline. 35 range attack for these musketeers versus 26 range attack for the British musketeers. One thing to note is that the musketeers of the Spanish side don't increase in HP, just pure damage. And speaking of damage, a lot of damage being dealt to these musketeers. The longbows in the backline, 22 range at best, or at the moment. Just applying a lot of damage. 1.5 rate of fire multiplies against the musketeers. The Hussar coming in from the front line or the sidelines, looking to maybe just snare, tank some damage for these musketeers to go to work. But Spain with those musketeers just doing so much damage. Multiplier damage versus the Hussar, the missionaries in the backline. But who's going to win this fight? This is so close. The Explorer coming in for Aiken as well, and more musketeers coming up for the triple barracks of minimoult. This might be a game-winning move by him. The missionary still alive, doesn't have his Explorer in the fight. It seems the dogs now cannot be trained, but is training 3 full batches of musketeers. I would assume has a lot of resources still being stacked up, and now maybe pulling these missionaries forward to tank some additional damage as well. 200 HP on these missionaries, and the musketeers kind of dwindling, falling very low. More musketeers coming in there for Aiken from his behind barracks. No Hussars, I don't think, being trained. Why would he? He needs more units to kind of deal with this musketeer mass, and all in all, this is a very surprising fight. Looks to me that minimoult doesn't spend his resources very well, and as a result doesn't have the musketeers out on time, so might have needed to kind of go back there and just wait for the remass, and now lost all his missionaries, lost pretty much most of his musketeer mass, and sure he's going to remass behind this, but I feel like, will he be able to catch up? Because, you know, one thing to note right now is that minimoult, of course, is training from 3 barracks, which is great, which will definitely help him in terms of remass. He has resources to spend, but so is Brits. He's got 2 barracks up, and he's also going to be able to kind of train full batches out without, you know, any, you know, issue. And I feel like 2 barracks is fine versus 3 barracks because he has a decent eco, whereas Spain's eco is kind of reliable on those shipments, as well as the stagecoach. It comes in like waves almost. And now he's losing that barracks as well, so it kind of like evened out right there. And now all the missionaries are gone down. 23 range attack versus 26 range attack. So now he's going to lose the fight right now. Now Hussars coming in, which can also be the game changer, because not only will these Hussars be able to snare to these musketeers and slow their movement speed, but they're also going to be able to tank some damage in the fight that, you know, I'm sure we're going to see. Even the longbow still alive in the backline, 3 longbows still alive, and this is going to be a very weird one. Villagers now being pulled. Not sure if they're trying to get the coin mine, but might just expect maybe these villagers to tank some extra damage, but seems a little bit premature here. I think he just wants that extra coin. 29 villagers on coin, 19 on food. Crossbows coming out from the 2 barracks of minimoult. What a fight. So much warfare, so much blood being shed by both players, looking to kind of get the edge over each other. Another musketeers in the backline kind of just burning down the trading post of the Spanish side. This is so close. I mean, score-wise, definitely doesn't look close, but I feel like if minimoult managed to kind of kill this mass with some incredible pop, which I'm not sure we're going to see, I think the score will definitely shift. And all of these villagers are here, so if he manages to win this fight, I feel like he will be able to kill a lot of villagers. But now with the crossbows in the picture, he needs to be wary of those Hussars. Doesn't have any anti-cav. Most of his anti-cav were raiding, and now the Hussars on the other side raiding themselves, looking to kind of deny the Spanish eco furthermore. And, you know, maybe this is good for minimoult. Now that the Hussar not there to deal with the crossbow, he might be able to win this fight and kill some villagers of his own, but his explorer is down. Won't be able to kind of snare into these explorers, meaning that Aiken is now just simply able to walk away and, yeah, be free. What a game. What a game. 56 vills for the British side. Minimoult with 37 vills. Once again, sending in the 300 wood infinite wood ship. And so this is kind of, you know, one last effort to kind of get the additional resources from the logistician age up and just kind of go for that big mass. You can see he's training more missionaries, which, by the way, I don't even know how much the missionaries cost. I would assume like 120 coin or something. 50 wood, 50 coin. So not the most expensive units, but you have to also kind of think to yourself, they don't actually do anything in terms of damage output. I guess, you know, physically, they just kind of give the units around them damage, which is huge nonetheless. But now look at this, minimoult going in for a fight, but this is kind of a premature fight. Maybe just expecting he could maybe pick off some units so that the units were sieging, wanted to go for a few pop shots, but absolutely getting obliterated by the musketeers of the British side and losing a lot of units there. And this is not good because he wants to go for that big remass with those barracks that he has, and of course those extra resources that he's getting, but, you know, losing a lot of units there and also not having a lot of crossbows, and he has to wait for those missionaries to pop. And I mean, looking really good for Aiken as of now. And if we switch over to Aiken, you can see he's yeah, losing a few vills to these musketeer raids, but I feel like this is kind of worth it because he has so many more villages than his opponent, and if he gets 5 musketeers killed and loses 1 villager for it, that's just great for him, because that just means his mass is going to be stronger than his opponent's mass. And we saw in that first, or that first big fight, how decisive his mass was and how easy it was for him to kind of just outscale in terms of you know, killing the musketeer units. And now we have a second fight going on, but I don't feel like this is going to be very good for minimoult. The missionaries are of course there, nice little pull trick there, kind of just escaping the range grasp of the British player. But all in all, I feel like it's just maybe delaying the inevitable at this point. And just look at these raids coming in for Aiken, just killing so many villagers. You see all these villagers on the floor. Huge plays by him, and now transitioning into longbows. And as soon as those longbows do pop, I think the deed is done. I think those longbows would just be so strong against most of the units that Spanish has. 22 range versus 16 range on these crossbows, 12 on these musketeers, and I don't think there's going to be much a way for minimoult to deal with those. Kind of interested to see, curious to see that Aiken didn't switch those longbows a little bit sooner, but nonetheless, looks like he did seal the first fights, and looks like we do have the second fight going on, but maybe these missionaries coming clutch, you never know. 7k score difference, and as of now, musketeers versus crossbows, a huge mass coming in. Doesn't even use his hussars. They're just still going to work on these villages, which do have great codes, by the way, of course, as well as the economic fury, the Furia, as well as the steel traps. Explorer now alive, being able to snare onto these units, so I don't think they're going to be able to escape a second time with the pull trick. And now a reinforcing batch of hussar here to finish the job. GG is called from minimoult, and wow, what a game. What a beautiful game. 8 to logistician minimoult, bringing it out for the play 7 game series for the Hudson Bay BIGS. Just trying his best here, trying to just do the strongest thing, or something that we saw, you know, Spain be considered very strong. English not working. The logistician, which was nerfed in the previous patch because it was so strong, bringing it out in this tournament as of now, and it looked very strong, but just kind of being very reckless in terms of units. I feel like he lost a lot of units and didn't really apply pressure to the eco of Aiken, where he should have kind of got over here, just getting walked around, distracted, and has some great plays with the missionaries and also great fights, but just kind of so far ahead, but then also giving it away for some reason, like having Stagecoach, having so many resources, and yeah, I think yeah, very well played to Aiken as well with those raids, and I guess outscaling and just using the time that was given to him. He just had the entire map. Like, this area wasn't even pressured that much throughout the early stages of the game, just giving him that free hunt, and also Aiken kind of pushing at the right time as well, which is very much needed. Getting those timings down as the British player, especially on Dakota, is just so important. Need to push, but it's always a question of when do I push. 35k resources for Aiken, 32 for minimoult, just showing you the difference. And the funny thing about this is that minimoult is actually ahead in resources in the early game. I would bet my life savings on it. Let's go ahead and check. All right, my bad. Very close though. Very, very close. Very close. I mean, slightly. I would actually assume he was a little bit further ahead, but just minorly, only a little bit. But keeping up with this, you know, English full boom, pretty impressive. Thought the game is not the easiest to do, especially H2 Spain. It's just a very strong strategy indeed, and great map to do it on. But yeah, once again, back to the resources, of course, as well as the military. We see on both sides, 214 units for the British side, 155 musketeers being trained, being his favorite unit. Minimoult 237, 125 musketeers being his favorite unit. So having more units and, yeah, losing the fights and eventually the game, which kind of shows you that he was kind of suiciding a lot of units back and forth, especially around here, around this TP area with those crossbows. Had to kind of kite. I think he deleted at least like 15 units there, which is, you know, not necessarily game losing, but also not game winning, in my opinion. XP curve or XP gain for both players, very, very close. But minimoult just having more shipments, considering the fact that Spain need less XP for their shipments. Curious to see if Brits actually had any shipments left to send. I wonder how many shipments he was stacking up towards the end. Did anyone see? Not sending in the rum distillery, which is the coin gather rate, but only for estates. So you can see a lot of heavier coin cards. But for now, also want to show you the raids before we head into the next game. Still have to wait for the replays. So if anyone does have those replays in terms of moderation, please send them to me on Discord so we can continue the series. Look at these raids coming in. A few vills every now and then, but not really decisive for minimoult. But the counter raids towards the end by Aiken just so huge. 41 vills down to 37, 37 down to 26, and just pretty much seals the deal. But all in all, both players kind of trying to raid, but a great defense from both sides. You know, those rods on those hussar, the musketeers on the opponent's musketeers. So both players just kind of keeping those villages alive. It's not like they didn't try to raid, it's just they couldn't. Too good. Once again, heading into the next game, I will update the score, meaning that Aiken did pull ahead in the 5th game. If I'm not mistaken, this is a play 05. I do have the remaining recordings. Thank you so much. The Jazz helps me out so much. And let me just load them up for you guys. There we go. So these were being played whilst we were kind of, you know, watching these previous games. And you kind of have to think to yourself, man, not only are these players professional level, but they're playing 7 games back to back. That is exhausting. Imagine playing 7 games back to back 120%. which I feel like we can all agree on. Both of these players are just absolutely playing amazingly. Like, maybe some people weren't that sure of the skill level of both of these players, but you can just definitely see both players very assertive of what they need to be doing. I did have these, let me just see. Sorry about that. Once again, this isn't a best of 7, it's a play all 7. And yeah, there we have game number 6. Sorry about that delay. So, I hope you guys are ready for game number 6, and if you thought it was going to slow down, you are absolutely mistaken. You better strap yourself in because it is about to get wild. And if you think about both players as of now, both players want to win as much as possible. And one thing I'm already very hyped about in this game is Aiken is playing India. And from what I've seen before on his streams and in general by spectating his games, is that India is a civilization he loves to play and he's very good at. So I would assume this would be his favorite civ, maybe, which means great. Game 6, we have, maybe a little bit of exhaustion kicking in, but now you're playing your civ you love and you played the most. So it's like, great. Now it's just about fun. Now it's just about doing what you know you can do. And of course, we have minimoult playing Dutch. Again, we saw the first games when he was playing Dutch on the map Manchuria, the precisely first game. He was so strong with Dutch. I don't think there was a single mistake that he made in the early stages of the game. Just beautiful play with the Reuter H3, H2 defense, even making that defensive wall between his house, bank, and his TC, and just really bringing out all the stops just to win that game. And yeah, did win the game, and it wasn't the easiest to do, but you have to also imagine because he was also playing against India, right? So we've seen this matchup before. This exact matchup happened before and minimoult did win, but this is a different map and India might have learned something from the previous game, going for the first house of the game, of course, having 5 villages on wood. India does use wood to train villagers, also doing a great job at scouting his map, also picking up a few treasures, which, with all the talking we did miss, but don't worry, we can see 50 food, 65 coin, as well as a 20 coin being picked up for the side of the Indian. So Aiken playing for the Mandarin Dog Squad and now bringing another wood treasure, which he definitely does need. 75 wood guarded by 2 tigers, but I don't think he can take. And now on the other side, we see minimoult looking to maybe just do some damage from range to this explorer, which definitely doesn't like taking damage. Only 250 HP on this explorer. And like my good friend Animus Vox says, playing India, keep your explorers together because together they are stronger and, strength in numbers, healing each other, very, very kind humans indeed, or kind explorers should I say. Nonetheless, now both explorers are together. We'll be stunning this food treasure, which does give him 75 food, which does mean he will have more food to kind of accumulate or stockpile towards that 800 food needed to get to the second age. On the other side, we of course see minimoult sitting in the 3 villages, age 1. Also in his deck, he does have the Bank of Amsterdam and the Bank of Rotterdam, and Advanced Arsenal also being in his deck, and also going for a very strong anti-water deck, and almost missed a treasure snipe there, but we will be in time to see this villager potentially go down. And they are strong in numbers, but I don't feel like Swami's gonna get out of this one. 1 HP left, and looks like he does go down. 45 XP is awarded to the Dutch side, and he's gonna be very happy about that because I think one thing that Dutch kind of do lack in the later stages of the game is XP, unless they go for the TP. So yeah, I feel like that's going to be really good for him. Not really going to need that XP too much in the early game, but in the later game, could make a little bit of a difference, if you ask me. Especially if he kills the second explorer as well. Nonetheless, both players kind of scouting out this wood treasure. And look at this, minimoult has got an absolute great understanding of where these explorers could be heading. Almost like he just waited for that. He's not only is he trying to herd his stuff in and switch his macro, but he's just also kind of knowing that this explorer would cross his path, and goes instantly for the snare and gets the second explorer almost as well. And the age up for his opponent is just so far off, and you can see these forward villagers kind of being sent in, but by the time that aggro goes up, this it's gonna be too low, and the envoy now as well. On top of this, gonna be able to scout this, so you can just kind of see the dominance being established on the side of minimoult. And we did say he won the first game in this matchup, and maybe he's just kind of very confident that he's gonna win the second game as well. And I mean, so far looking really strong. And I mean, you might think to yourself, Len, you might be overacting a little bit. Two explorers going down isn't game winning, game changing, but I would kind of disagree. I feel like it is. And also now with this aggro being scouted is going to give minimoult the information required to kind of make the necessary adjustments in his H2 gameplay. So we can definitely expect a barracks, I would assume, and maybe even just something else. Maybe at a stable, or just not go for the 4 or 5 banks and be less greedy, but then kind of go H3 and scale from there. Meanwhile, also looking to pick up an 80 wood treasure, so a deodar cheddar worth 80 wood, which I think is a wood stand, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure what a deodar is, but nonetheless, we'll get that 80 wood. And yep, going for the first bank in transition, getting that bank nice up and early. Now Quartermaster coming in, 400 wood in front of his TC, and now currently got 12 villagers on food, looking to maybe get that second bank up a lot sooner. But kind of idle there, not having enough coin to train his villagers. 3 villagers on coin, but I think he needs to put another villager on coin, maybe not. And we'll be looking to build that second bank, sending in the 700 wood, and might even send in the bank wagon after, or the 600 wood, which I'm assuming either of those shipments could be sent in. Of course, Agra still not up for the side of Aiken, and 4 minutes and 40 seconds, and he's still not age 3, so very late age up for him, almost aging up at 5 minutes, and not ideal because he also used a lot of villagers at the first to kind of build this aggro. I think he had like 4 or 5 villagers on this aggro, but then took a few off, and yeah, now does get to the age 2 Sepoi coming out from his age up choice. Doesn't have enough wood at the moment to train that villager, but we'll have it in the next few seconds. And now from the aggro training, more Sepoi, and going for what we saw in the first game, the big Sepoi push. But will it be so big as of now? Because you have to imagine like a lot of time has gone by aging up quite late in my opinion, but maybe not so much, because you have to kind of look at it like this. Germany usually goes for the Ulan raids roughly around 5 minutes and 30 or 5 minutes and 40 if you're a little bit later, and you can already see like 2 Sepoi, 7 Sepoi, 5 minutes and 30 now pouring into the base of the Dutch player. So still kind of a competitive time to kind of idle your opponent, but you know, you give Dutch those extra seconds, he's going to eat them up like a crispy cookie on a bacon strip. Picking up another treasure here. 75 food being picked up for Aiken, also known as Tit once again. Sepoi slowly making their way to the base of Dutch and getting a full idle here. A lot of villagers in the TC for minimoult. So will we see the same game that we saw in Florida, where kind of minimoult has to kind of make sure he keeps his villagers out gathering, maybe even hide a few villagers and just kind of defend his base? And the barracks now coming up really late. Does have the 600 wood in, I would assume. 700 wood does come in, but the barracks super late. Now trading skirmishes as soon as that barracks does go up. It does have 3 banks out on the field as of now, but all of his villagers in the town center, not gathering from food, building the house, building a marketplace, kind of using that marketplace to act as a wall, should I say. Also, maybe going to give him those nice market ups like the steel traps, placer mines, or even the hunting dogs, which he still needs to get, by the way. Setting in the 700 coin, so not even setting in the 600 wood. 4 banks, 700 coin on the way, and maybe looking to go for that very fast H3, but I think Aiken very aware of that. This could be something that he might face against, and might even transition on to Gurkha a little bit sooner this time. Sepoi really good against, of course, you know, cavalry units in melee, but even skirmishes in melee, having incredible melee damage, 15 hand attack, 25 range attack, and just incredible hit points, 180. So really beautiful unit to make if you're fighting underneath the town center, and kind of synergizes well with the build order of Aiken as of now. But one thing he does need to be wary of is the H3 of Dutch, because when Dutch does go H3, he's going to make Reuters, but now Aiken changing his game, making the sours, or should I say sending in the sours, I would assume. Yeah, the sours coming in from a shipment, and this is really, really good, because now he's able to kind of look for the skirmishes of minimoult. And let me just see if Aiken sees. Currently, Black doesn't see the skirmishes of now, but he knows that skirmishes out in the field, and he just wants to find them with the sours, even going to the very edges of the shoreline, because he knows the skirmishes are out on the field, and he wants to kill them, but he cannot find them. And minimoult just walking all the way, you know, to Hudson Bay at the moment with these skirmishes, just ankle breaker with these skirmishes, absolutely outplaying his opponent, hiding between the tree line in camouflage. Pikes coming out on time, gonna be really good against those Sours, of course, which don't have the highest hit points. And this is really good play by minimoult, almost predicting this, and might even send in the Pikes after this. He has the 700 coin already out on the field. 3 Pikes are up. He can kind of be a little bit more risky in terms of shipments as of now, and I wouldn't be surprised if he sends in the Pikes next, training more Pikes from his home city, or sorry, from his home barracks. Only one batch of Pikes coming out. Sells the Miniman yet to be popped. 14 villages in the town center. Now the Sours finally skirmishes and start applying some damage to the skirmishes, but the Pikes are kind of there, but now it lost most of his skirmishes. Doesn't really have an answer to these 5 Sepoy, but I don't feel like 5 Sepoy that scary. Good job at hiding some vills down here as well for settlers in the lower position of the base. And this is something, or lower position of the map, Korea. This is something that we kind of missed in the French game until very late. And I feel like hiding a few vills is so big here, because sometimes you're idle with all of your towns, with all of your villages, and then your opponent burns down a house, and it's like, okay, I just need a house and I can make some units to defend, but as soon as you eject the villagers out, they die. So now that he has those 4 villagers out here, he's going to be able to maybe make a marketplace or even a house in case needed. But I think really good play from minimoult so far, and I think this is looking really good for him, because now stacking to age, to the 3rd age, and Dutch this is pretty much the story of Dutch's life. They're always going to be idle. It's pretty much all they do is make the banks and just pray that they don't lose too much in the transition from age 2 to age 3. And this is no new thing for them against Russia, against pretty much everything they play against. Inca, Lakota, Germany, maybe not Germany, but France. You always kind of expect the H2 play from your opponent when you're playing Dutch, and just as soon as you hold the H2 and kind of transition to H3, you are definitely rewarded. If you check out some of the shipments that he can send in, 7, 8 skirmishes, 5 Hussar, 9 Reuters, could be another 7 Reuter batch in here, but instead it is the frigate, which will be very handy in case Aiken does decide to go on water. But Aiken, as of now, I mean, if I look at this, I feel like Aiken might just be going to H3. Yep, going H3. Like predicted, Tower Victory coming in, which is a very unique age-up policy. It ships in 3. In H3, it ships in 800 wood, but it also kind of increases the attack and hit points of his units, and I think it's the speed as well. It's like ability that you use, kind of like ceasefire. So instead of like, if you kind of look at the Taj Mahal, where you click on the button and it ceases fire for I think it's 20 seconds. In this case, the inspiration inspires your units to kind of attack stronger and also have more hit points as well as more speed. So looking to be very aggressive, which isn't something that I necessarily expect here. Sometimes you would kind of expect the Kani Mata or something, or even the Chamina Gate, which would kind of do something very similar. Just getting that Mahout upon completion, but maybe just needs that 800 wood in H3, which could kind of open up a can of worms in terms of getting the, fish on Korea. Ooh, that was a great pun. Let me know if you understood what I was saying. Can of worms, the fish. Oof, that was a good one. Sorry about that. Agra Fort still up and ready. Now training Gurkha. Sepoy, of course, also alive. Check out the H3 for Dutch. So I'm going to assume did go up with the XR Prince. Now sending in 700 wood, 1k wood. After the 700 wood, didn't even send in the 600 wood. So still kind of lacking 2 banks. So he needs to find a way to kind of build those extra 2 banks. And, if this game goes well for him, he can maybe send in those Age 1 cards. They're called Chill Water. Also, Reuter raid by him. And this game is already looking a lot better for India. I think this game might actually be very good for Aiken at the moment, because now he's kind of playing his civilization more relaxed. He's not suiciding all his units in H2. And now he's kind of in a great position himself, because not only does his eco kind of scale fairly decently with those shippers that he has, but then he's also kind of able to sit back on the strong marketplace upgrades that he has on those villages. And now that he has more villages coming from these H3 shipments, 40 vills versus Dutch's 23 vills, and he only has 3 banks. So that's 4, 8, 12, maybe 14 vills. So like 38 vills for Dutch. I hope my math is correct. I always kind of mix up the villager number in comparison to the bank. But yeah, I feel like India in a really good position. And if you look at the score, not only does he have more score, but I kind of assume he has strong units as well. Having the Gurkha, which are very decent. They scale very well with some of the cards that you can send in. The Mahouts, the Howders, the Yurumi. All of the shipments that he has in H3, which we can take a look at. will definitely come in handy. And not only does he have all of those shipments, but he also has the Tower of Victory, which we didn't even talk about. And with the 800 wood, we can maybe see what he invested the wood on. A stable being built, some more houses, of course, barracks, consulate. H3 has the 1k wood, as well as, of course, all of these shipments that we talked about. The Yorumi, the Mahouts, the Siege Elephants, the Sepoy. And then, of course, the upgrades, sending in the 8 Gurkha first shipment. Age 1. Sorry, age 3. Bit of a Reuter raid going on here, trying to deny some of these forward villages. Dutch on the other side, just massing up a lot of skirmishes, also making a lot of Reuters in the back line. Has a few pikes alive still from H2. And yeah, this is it's gonna be quite a game. I mean, 5 banks now up for minimoult, looking to maybe push this aggro, but this could be a big fight for Aiken, because now he has a really strong units himself, and you have to imagine you need to siege down this aggro. So half of your army is going to be sieging on the aggro, whereas the other half needs to fight, and this kind of leaves Aiken kind of open to kind of take really decent trades. As we can see here, these Gurkha just doing a lot of damage to these skirmishes, as well as the aggro of the splash damage. But nice play by minimoult, putting these skirmishes into stagger mode, so they take reduced splash damage from this aggro fort, falling down to 4,400 HP. So it doesn't have the exact HP of a USA fortress or other fortresses. For example, a USA fortress has 8,500 HP. Just a difference. Also less damage, of course. Zambarak's being trained from the behind stable. Still a single barracks out for the Indian side, sending in the 1k wood, as we saw here. Also getting a villager for it. With a skirmisher war here, 18 range attack versus 19 range attack. Inspiration still yet to be used, and maybe could use it now. Just give his units the extra damage needed. In skirmisher war, it would make a huge difference. Of course, 25 units on the side of Aiken, now using the skirmisher, or sorry, the inspiration ability, inspiring all of these Gurkha, giving them extra damage. But as soon as his opponent saw that, he backs off, and lives to see another day with those skirmishes. Might just look to remass, maybe even send in some more skirmishes if he has 7 skirmishes still available. Even sending in the infantry combat, kind of boosting the stats of his skirmishes. 20 range versus 19 range, but 146 HP versus 162 HP. Of course, with the card sent in, and yeah, it's going to be a very, very close fight. I mean, 25 skirmishes on the side of Dutch, whereas India has 22 skirmishes, but skirmishes is going to scale the longer this game goes on. I feel you could maybe just go H4 if you wanted to, and of course, now I would say with maybe a decent eco as well. Just needs to maybe just get that good pop off, and looks to be good pop here with these Swami and of course these Tulisidas doing some stomp damage here, stunning most of these units, also applying splash damage and just getting the snare in as well. And you can see minimoult not really having any of it, going back to his base, tanking with his villagers. Does he have the Grey Coats on his villagers? I would assume he does not. I'm just gonna check. Oh, up here we can see some villagers being raided as well. Grey Coat is on the villager, but also the Sepoy in melee. Also melee range versus these villagers. Taking one villager down, but the 3 Reuters are here. But I don't think 3 Reuters is going to be enough to defend against these 5 Sepoy. And that's just so unfortunate, because now you're going to lose those 3 Reuters as well if you're not careful. Definitely going to lose something here. So trying to kind of keep his APM up on the other side. Do as much damage as he can with the skirmishes, as well as kind of not get picked off. Very dangerous fighting underneath the aggro. You kind of could always expect that big Mahu pop, and minimoult needs to be really careful here. You never know what could come out of an aggro. He's being so ballsy here. This is incredible. Wow, this is I'm nervous. Also, a dog being placed by Aiken. Starting to kind of transition onto the water boom. One fun fact about the water on Korea is that you only have food on the the water. No coin, no whales, no beluga whales, no white whales. Just food purely, which is very good for Dutch, because not really a civilization that needs coin, with these banks with 2.75 gathering rates. And now we can see the score kind of shifting towards Aiken, and wow, these Reuters just missing the Zambarak. That would have been a nice little engagement, but nonetheless, some more Zambarak going to connect onto some of these Reuters, but might be a little bit of an unfavorable trade here. And now the skirmishes on the other side kind of getting the better trade, almost like complete similar units, but just a very decisive results on the side of the Indian, just cleaning up all of these Reuters, cleaning up all of these skirmishes, having more skirmishes, having more Zambaraks. Now in the base, calling Minutemen will be really good for him. The villagers also there to tank, just needs something to snare to these Reuters, but doesn't really have anything. And I'm waiting for this Mahu pop from Aiken. I feel like it would be so big right now, but just needs the food for it, also needs the shipment for it. And might not go for it maybe. But now that he's killed most of these Reuters, I feel like it would be the perfect position to kind of set up for that aggressive Mahu. Wow, look at this wall being placed, just trying to block off these Reuters. Will the wall go up in time? If the wall goes up, all of these Reuters will die, and he'll also be able to snare with the Explorer. What a clutch wall. Oh my god, absolutely trapping all of these units, and the Explorer just so good now, snaring onto these Reuters, slowing all of the movement speed down, but nonetheless, the Reuters actually escaping, but I don't think it matters at that point. Pretty much every single Reuter low HP that does remain, so almost the equivalent of losing all of those Reuters and just losing so much. And now the Gurkha is just going to work and complete outplay for Aiken. Not only does he have more skirmishes, but he's taking better trades, just better positioning, better micro, and just maybe a better civ in general in terms of scaling, in terms of warfare, in terms of just having better units. The consulate tech's also coming out as well. Redcoats, something we could see, just give him the additional damage. I know a lot of players kind of, when they play India, they don't really care about how many units they have. They just like to have a lot of units to tank damage, just throw away units. Versus the skirmishes, sometimes when you have those redcoats, skirmishes would just kind of be focused on the redcoats where the Gurkha can go to work, trim down those skirmisher numbers, and the Mahu's not even getting their play. You just see such a decisive victory for Aiken, just a different result here. Wow, what a game. India just looking so strong in that previous game, and you can just see the difference. Not fully committing to the H2 gameplay, and beautiful game. Really beautiful game here, and I guess just taking better trades, kind of outscaling, maybe faster APM in that last game. Of course, getting the idol on the Dutch, which, you know, you might think to yourself when you have 5 banks, the idol doesn't hurt too much, but he had 3 banks and got idled and only had those 5 banks very late. So his eco is kind of behind, I would assume, most of the game. And, you know, India behind that. Shipments from the age up, 800 wood. Kind of also getting villages from his shipments. Kind of maybe able to catch up. Maybe see if he used the consulate to get those 4 villages in a sec. And I feel like just India scale a little bit better than Dutch. It's almost like, I feel like it's just more spicier. Like the Asian dynasty civs are just, I think they have way better scaling than some of these European civilizations. But one thing Dutch does have is artillery, which I guess India does have a hard time making. Only being able to get those culverins from the consulate. Maybe check out, I just want to check out the village account, to be honest. So I think he did send in those 4 vills from the consulate. And you can see 35 vills versus 21 vills. So his ecos, I would assume, ahead. But, you know, we can also check. Yeah, look at this. His ecos ahead. So I saw someone asked what went wrong. He can see just getting outgathered and then also getting outplayed with the units. And I also feel like the Gurkha just so good. When you kind of force your opponent to kind of fight underneath the aggro, you can get a lot of free skirmishes, meaning that you can have a more decisive number of skirmishes, which helps you win the skirmisher war. And when you kind of win the skirmisher war, your opponent can't really trade. And then that's just pretty much the end, because then with India, you have the Mahuts, you have, of course, all the other units, the Zambrag, which a lot of people don't understand how great these units are, especially in terms of scaling. And here we had it. India outgathering Dutch, and also on water towards the end, we saw a dock being placed. It was pretty much the beginning for Aiken, but the end for Minimoult. And yeah, great game indeed. Might just head into the next game. Breeze over some of these stats I know a lot of people might want to see. You know, military units, maybe some of the fights. But once again, Aiken taking, you know, game number 6 away from Hudson Bay BIGS. And this was a matchup that previously Mini did win in the first game on Manchuria. So this is a big victory for Aiken, and maybe going to set him up for the next game and the final game. Just give him that extra confidence in the last hour of this series that he might need, the motivation that he needs to kind of just come back and just take this series for himself. Just breeze through some of these stats. See here, just trades kind of going well for Aiken throughout most of the game, like always kind of being ahead in terms of military population. So yeah, heading into the final game. Hope you guys enjoyed the last game, India versus Dutch. I know a lot of India players are in the chat, as well as a lot of Dutch players as well. And once again, this isn't a best of 7, it's a play 7, so don't be fooled about the game number 7. Also just gonna refresh the score and give you guys the proper understanding. So 4-2 at the moment for Aiken, aka Tit, as we head into game number 7. Sorry if we didn't have the more info on. I apologize. Once again, I want to say, before we head into the next game, thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you guys so much for, playing this game. Big shout out to Kaiser Klein, big shout out to Hartia, big shout out to Kaiser, big shout out to Bremhog, big shout out to the whole ESOC community, and thank you so much for the support. If you guys enjoyed these series, then be sure to kind of stay tuned and continue just being here, because it helps, and it definitely motivates to keep this up. We play AoE 3 like AoE 4 does not exist. Am I right, guys? And without further ado, let's jump into the final game between Aiken versus Minimoult. It's going to be hype and it's going to be wild. It's going to be a big back and forth, because in this game, we have Russia versus the British civilization. So on the right side, on Punja, we have Minimoult playing the British in the color red, going ahead and maybe going for the 2-mana house start, but also with his Mango Grove rickshaw. Going to look to maybe pick up some of these water buffalo near the river. And yeah, this is going to be very hype, because a lot of people also say Brits versus Russia is a Russia favored matchup, but I think these ESOC Premier League games and ESOC Challenger League games have kind of proven otherwise. And of course, on the left we have Aiken, aka Tit, the absolute monster, currently 4-2 versus Minimoult, playing Russia on the left side. And yeah, maybe just gonna show you guys the strength of Russia. A lot of people might not know how strong Russia can be if played correctly, but for now, looking to maybe pick up the 65 coin treasure guarded by these 4 macaques, doing a great job at kiting. The other side, we see Minimoult just looking to go ahead and get as many water buffalo as he can, and also maybe just find that extra treasure needed to maybe make that the 3rd mana house. But he loves to chop for that 3rd mana house. We saw this in a previous game. Getting that 3rd mana house is just so big. Sometimes you can also go for the marketplace start or even the TP start, but you're now getting the 3rd mana house out, only overgathering 2 wood, which is a lot less than in the previous British game where we saw Minimoult actually overgather a little bit more. But you can just see he's come here to not play around, interestingly enough. So you're just looking to get that extra bill. Now picking up a 75 or 80 wood treasure, and also picking up that 1 water buffalo. But looky here, Aiken with his mango or his grove rickshaw managing to steal it off of the British player. Definitely going to use that 500 food on those water buffaloes when fully fattened. So nothing more that he would want, especially as Russia, which do train in batches. Once again, I do have to mention that when you play Russia, you do train villages in terms of 3 villages in the time that it takes Brits to train 2 villages. And not only do you train them faster, but you also kind of save food by doing so. So 1 villager for the British side costs 100 food, whereas 3 villagers for the Russian side cost 260 food. Has been changed in the recent patch. So he's going to save 40 food on 3 villages and also train them faster. So giving you an idea on how well Russia scale in Age 2. Whereas the British obviously get the extra villages from the manor houses. And this is a map I've seen a lot of British players kind of do very well on, because of the starting hunts and of course the berries, which sadly you cannot upgrade the berry gathering rates like with the Arcan natives. But you do have the villager gather work rate for meals on this one, which could be nice, I guess, if he does run out of food. But then you also have the Shakrams, which are very good against infantry, which, funnily enough, Russia love to make infantry, so maybe the Shakrams could be really good in this matchup, but I wouldn't expect Minimoult maybe to grab them in the early stages. Speaking of grab, both players looking to grab up this 80 coin treasure, but 2 tigers, very strong guardians, and both players don't want to give each other anything. Russia just kind of stacking up enough food to go to age 2. Needs 800 food for his 2nd age. Nice marketplace start for him. Didn't even talk about that. Does have potentially the hunting dogs, I would assume, on his villages, but I don't see the hunting dogs. Interesting. So no hunting dogs on his settlers, which is kind of strange. He just forgot to get his hunting dogs. That could of course be. Quite sure he made that marketplace, but didn't even get the hunting dogs. Nonetheless, sending in 3 villagers towards the mid of the map and going to build that blockhouse in a very forward position, and indicating that he's going for a strong Age 2 push. 5 Cossack and maybe 10 Strele or Strelet to come out of the barracks. 7 villagers on wood. This and in the distributivism Age 1, 1.25 wood trickle, giving him that extra wood needed for those houses, as well as kind of giving that wood for his Strele batch that he does need. Minimoult on the other side, building a barracks, building a marketplace himself towards the behind area of his base. All of his villagers, apart from one on food, that one villager was hurting. Now, of course, a lot of food underneath his base, and also picking up a few water buffalo could actually be really nice here, and so needs to kind of get this hunt towards his base. And we've seen Passy in a previous series, he actually played this perfectly, had like all of these hunts underneath his TC, and was able to go H3 very, very easily and kind of defend off the aggression from his opponent, who was playing Germany, which is very hard to deal with. Sometimes those Ulan raids can be very pesky. But now in this matchup, I feel like it might be a little bit different, because you're playing against a civilization that just always comes at you. It doesn't really back off. Like, Russia just makes units and just never stops making units. He's just always like punching you from all angles. Whereas Germany, you know, they come in with the Ulan raids, they lose the Ulans, and then you have a small window where you can breathe. But with Russia, it doesn't feel like you breathe. It feels like they just suffocate you with the units. Mango Grove being placed in front of this blockhouse. A beautiful play by Minimoult, just kind of trying to delay anything that he can, pretty much. Should have maybe built that a little bit closer to this tree line. I feel like that would have actually been good. Now that it's placed there, I don't think it's going to do too much. AJ with the governor, getting the 200 coin as well as the outpost, looking to just defend his base. And one thing that we saw a lot of British players do is that kind of aggression is the best defense in terms of eco. So a lot of the times we saw British players on this map make kind of forward manor houses towards the side area of his or side area of this map, and just have the extra hunt pretty much. But in this case, this is all the hunts he has, and it looks like a lot of food, but Brits is going to go for this food quite easily, and it's going to eat a lot of this food at a, you know, record-breaking time. So maybe should just kind of, with that wood, build a few manor houses over here and just kind of herd this towards his base as well. You can never really be too safe. Better to be sorry than safe. That's how I'd like to say it with British. Sometimes this game does favor being extra greedy, in my honest experience. Nonetheless, 5 Cossack coming out for Aiken on time, pretty much 5 minutes 30, and I guess now with the Australia or Musketeers to follow. Yep, 5 Musketeers coming in as well, and sending in 4 Cossack as well from his home city, and just looking to idle pretty much. It's about that time where all the villagers have to go into the town center when you're playing against Russia. There's pretty much nothing you can do about this. The only thing the British player could potentially do is send in Musketeers and kind of wait for that big Miniman pop and kind of snare with his Explorer, but that's kind of counter not really good, because the British player loves to boom. So if you force him to send military units, it's pretty much GG right there. So just gonna send in that wood boom behind this. Now building the barracks with the wood, also building another manor house. Kind of late, if you ask me. Minimoult very late in this game. The barracks coming up super late. This could be scary for him. Just gonna rely on those 9 villagers in the town center to just kind of kill those Cossack. But this is a great play by Aiken with the 4-5 Cossack. They're just gonna be able to idle so much and also tank a lot of damage versus this TC. And the stable was built, but don't know where the Hussar are. Speaking of Hussar, Minimoult actually using those Hussar instead of to defend his base to kind of raid his opponent. And I mean, a great counter raid here. And a great thing about Brits is that they can have 10 villagers idle in the TC, and usually they still have more villagers than you. But now that he's built the barracks and the stable, a lot of wood has kind of been invested elsewhere instead of those extra manor houses. But look at this, beautiful, catching his opponent off guard, picking off a villager. I think he might block that second villager. No, but now we have a little bit of a dance around this coin mine, and it does block off these 2 villagers. So might pick off 3 villagers here if he does this correctly. Ooh, villager falling very low. Oh, that was very close. 10 HP, I would assume, on that last villager. But yeah, 2 villagers for him, and just really just hurting the Russia eco. And 25 villagers for Minimoult, 18 for the Russian player. But now Cossack looking to maybe cut off the pathing of this Hussar. But Aiken, are you crazy? You're not going to win this fight. 4 Hussar versus 4 Cossack. You're going to lose this. The Hussar are way better than the Cossack. That's your thing. Your units quality and quantity. Losing all of those Cossack. 2 Cossack going down. I mean, a little bit of a ballsy move there. You needed those Cossack. You shipped them all in. The Musketeers are behind, but just not there in time. And was trying to snare those Hussar, but kind of backfiring for him. Now Minimoult just going to pretty much thrive. He's buying himself so much time with these Hussar. 4 Hussar just kind of out on the field, forcing all of these Musketeers to kind of retreat. And now he's just, yeah, now he's just bought himself so many seconds to do something. And not only has he done that, but he's also denied some eco for Aiken. And he could even go for more here if he plays his cards correctly. Could maybe trade some more Hussar and just go for like a split. But it might just age if he wants to. Maybe just see if he's stacking up for an age up. Nope, training more Hussar from his back, from his stable, and looking to go for these villages. But Musketeers are there in time, and all in all, this is great play by Minimoult. This is perfect for him. Now he's able to send in the 600, 700 wood. Now coming in and make more mana houses and get those additional villages. Even going for aggressive TP on the side of Aiken, which is very interesting. I'm not sure what Aiken is doing here. Going for that very aggressive TP and paying the price for it. Losing his Explorer and also losing the TP. And how is he going to build that TP? He needed that TP because he's going to be playing H2 for a long time. So having the additional XP definitely makes him more viable in H2. Having more shipments come in a lot sooner, which isn't going to be the case. Needs to kind of buy back his Explorer if he wants to rebuild that TP. That going for the blockhouse. And you can just see by where he positioned this blockhouse that he's not very assertive, not very confident in his game plan anymore. He does have 2 blockhouses still in the mid-map, but getting walked all around, and this is exactly where Minimoult wants to be. He just wants to kind of jerk his opponent around with these Hussar raids, and looks like Aiken is not having any of it. Now just kind of saying, this is a mess. I'm going with the Musketeers, looking to maybe just shut down some of the eco of these, of the British. But the longbows are there for Minimoult, it seems. 22 range on these longbows. Perfect unit to make against the Musketeers. So once again, Minimoult coming with the counter. 2.6k score ahead now. And I think it's just going to further increase his score limit. Needs to be careful that he doesn't get caught off guard with these Musketeers in melee. Do have a 3 times multiply against these Hussar with 320 HP. But do have a very mobile movement speed, should I say. They pick off those villages earlier, so I think in total 4 villages maybe going down for the Russia side, which 23 vills versus 30 vills, I mean, isn't the most decisive, but now the British has kind of sent in that wood. It's going to be building a lot of mana houses, but a bit of a fight breaking out here, but the longbows I think will clean up. They do have more damage in hand than these Musketeers. 1 more damage to be precise. Curious to see the rate of fire as well. 1.5 for the longbows in hand attack. But the same for the Musketeers. Just had to make sure. But wow, look at this. Minimoult not paying attention, losing those 3 Hussar. And that's, 600 resources pretty much down the drain. But getting good value from those Hussar and still has those 5 Hussar towards the top area or the mid section of the map still available. So if he does want to raid, I feel like he will be able to. But as of now, just kind of doing a great job at securing his position on this map. But we talked about the food situation for Minimoult. We saw those hunts in his base, right? And I'm sure a lot of people are thinking, wow, that's a lot of food. But don't really see any hunts anymore. A lot of these food or a lot of these nilgai now kind of being depleted. And we talked about him maybe having to herd this hunt in, and he didn't do that. And as a result, he's going to have to do it now, which might be a little bit too late. But Hussar's still kind of there to buy himself some time. And going to be a very interesting game. So far looking really good for Minimoult. And one great thing about Russia is that they always kind of, we talked about this in a previous game, Passy versus Ungas, and I kind of used the analogy of saying Russia's like a cockroach, whereas you kind of kick them to the curve or you step on them, and it seems like for every cockroach that you kill, more spawn. Might be a little bit of a disgusting analogy, but it is like, it's very similar. Like the Strele die, and then all of a sudden you have double amount of Strele shooting your units, which is, crazy, and start killing your dudes. But in this case, a lot of Musketeers out on the field, and the pressure's on for Minimoult right now. Like, he's putting a lot of pressure onto the forward blockhouses of Aiken, and if he takes down 2 of these blockhouses, this is going to be a huge victory for him, because not only does he have the better eco, 36 villages now to barely 30 of the Russian side, he's also denied the TP, he's also killed a lot of villages, and he's continuously kind of putting pressure on. But look at this, the Cossack spawning out of the stable, trying to get a good snare here, but look at this, Minimoult kind of just suiciding 2 Hussar, looking to escape. But will he be able to escape? I don't think he will be. I think he might actually be in a little bit of a predicament when it comes to keeping those Hussar alive. But as a result, losing some of these blockhouses, the Hussar, kind of distracting those Cossack, and these longbows with the 22 range now going to work. But maybe a misclick here from Minimoult while moving all of his longbow into the range of the Musketeers. This is a big throw. Wow, that could have been awful for him. Could have put those Musketeers into melee range. And look at this, Aiken doing exactly that, moving up with the 10 damage that these Musketeers do, doing so much damage here. But Pike's in guard mode, taking a triple resistance right now. But all in all, I feel like this might be a good trade for Aiken. And we talked about the efficiency of the units of Russia, and now with this Cossack going down, this Hussar going down, and the Cossack also still alive, killing the Cossack. killing the Hussar. This is a beautiful timing for him. More reinforcing Cossack coming from the stable, but the Musketeers putting to melee mode. Who's gonna win this fight? More reinforcing units from minimoult. This is a back and forth. This is a big clash in the middle. Who's gonna win this fight? I feel like maybe both sides now just trying to do their best in terms of micro, but all in all, this looks like minimoult might actually pick this one up, but I feel like that could have, you know, gone either way. If those reinforcements hadn't come in on time, Russia would have been gladly, you know, able to take that trade towards the, you know, beginning of that fight and kill a lot of the longbows as well as the musketeers. But just not having a lot of units out and losing 2 blockhouses kind of limiting his potential in terms of training those additional units. Now training from a single blockhouse, if I saw correctly, and having so many resources to spend, and Russia not having the best eco. But we talked about, you know, Russia having cost-effective or cost-efficient units. They train units for such cheap prices, meaning that they just have a lot of resources kind of left over due to the price tag of those units. And now he has like 600 food stacked up but can't spend it, and kind of going for a premature fight here, pulling the villagers, looking to block, but losing 5 Cossack, losing 5 musketeers. And once again we see one of these fights that just, if he had waited 10 seconds, it would have been great. Now the Australia's coming off from the town center. Also, the Minutemen. This might actually be a change. This might be a turn in events, even using the Minutemen in the back line to deal some additional damage. The villagers in the front line with great coats tanking some damage with the Musketeers, but needs to be careful that he doesn't lose too many villagers. Needs to maybe just idle them. Now with the Australian Musketeers coming out, and we talked about those extra seconds. Maybe he just timed this beautifully. Musketeers killing most of these Hussar, Cossack popping up from the stable, and yeah, minimoult having to retreat, has more reinforcing units coming, but I don't think it's going to be enough. And what a great defense by Aiken. Beautiful play by him. Now, maybe just pick off those additional Cossack and just look to retreat and remass. And I think this is looking really good for Russia. And what a change of events right now, because if you were siding for the Brits before, I feel like you might have to switch your sides, because now this is where Russia comes in handy, because now Russia has, you know, the effective blockhouses, which he can make to secure him map control, but he also has his opponent kind of out of resources. Where the hunts for Brits, he has no food. 3 villages pretty much exposed on the other side of the map. He has this one hunt over here, but I mean, this is not going to last forever. All Russia really needs to do now is just remass. He has, I guess, does he have any food himself? I don't think he has any food, but now kind of taking a bad trade here. Oh no, this is not good. Hussar cleaning up most of these musketeers, cleaning up most of these Strelay. The longbows now clutch, being able to just assist these Hussars in kind of neutralizing that multiplier or that negative multiplier that they do face when playing up or versing those musketeers. And yeah, killing a lot of units there, and this is exactly what he needed. And now these Hussars versus these Cossack, I feel like this is going to be a really, really decisive fight for Brits. Hussars just so good in H2 for the British civilization, even against musketeers, which, you know, we think musketeers are really good against Hussar, but these are Rusketeers, and they have less HP as well as kind of less damage output. So even though they do have that 3 multiplier, they have less HP, and when you're kind of facing up against Hussar, longbows, and also musketeers shooting at you whilst you're trying to kill the Hussars, yeah, that's not a very viable anti-cav unit, and pretty much the only anti-cav unit that you have in H2 as Russia, how it is, something that you can only make in H3. So kind of just has to go with that Strelay, Musketeer, Cossack unit composition as of now and just kind of make it work. Speaking of work, these villagers out of work, can't really do anything at the moment, don't have any food, and just painful migration here. Oof, minimoult does manage to hold that push and I guess, or hold that fight, but now having to kind of find some sort of way to get the resources. Counter raid coming in from the Cossack, killing those villagers that we talked about, and this is something that we can expect to see a lot from the Russia player, because he feels like he's behind, and now that he's behind, he's kind of, you know, he needs to raid, but he's not having a very good time here. These Hussar just so strong against the Cossack. It's almost like he needs, what, 10 Cossack for every 5 Hussar almost, and then great micro on top of that to kind of win fights. And the Hussar just not only killing all of those Cossack, just kind of surviving as well, and does lose those 2 villages, but also kind of getting the hunt on the other side and buying himself a lot of time with those longbows, buying himself a lot of time with those musketeers, denying the blockhouse. And do we see another blockhouse being built by the Russian side? No. If we switch over to Aiken, we can see he doesn't actually have any wood left, and doesn't have any wood on the way because he doesn't have a shipment ready, because he didn't build that TP, because he lost his Explorer over here. So it's come back to haunt him in the end. And we talk about those small misplays. I mean, imagine he would have had that 600 wood out if he had that TP up, and I don't want to be the person to say it, but game-losing move right there. Cossack still going for some raids, and I'm going to assume Aiken does assume that there's some villagers up here gathering from these hunts. You can see that on the map, just how fast the food is deteriorating. And now, wow, this is such a messy fight. The Cossack versus the Hussar, as well as the Cossack versus the Longbows, the Hussar versus the Musketeers. 3 Strele. Oh boy, this is not going to go well for the Russian side. Just absolutely getting obliterated. He doesn't even need any anti-cav. He's got such a decent longbow mass. He can just absolutely snipe some of these Cossack, which don't even have the highest hit point. 225 HP, even making additional pikes to deal with the Cossack, which is complete overkill. He did send in the Boyaz card, so does increase the stats of these Cossack, but I don't know, this is not looking good for Aiken, and I feel like game number 7 might go to Minimoult. We'll have to see, but I mean, Russia always kind of finds a way sometimes to kind of bounce back into the game, but everything moving so slow for Russia at the moment, just not getting that shipment in. Does have, I guess, the shipment sent, but what did he send in? I don't even see what did he send in. He sent in the Cav H. Oh, yikes. Huge idle here for the side of Aiken, which something he would probably love to kind of idle a little bit earlier, but now it's a little bit too late. Only 3 Cossack versus, of course, these Hussar constantly chasing, and Minimo just spamming Hussars of now realizing that I feel like if he just makes Hussar, he's probably gonna win. And he's also very mobile with those Hussar. Doesn't really have to kind of egg around with his infantry units. But what a game. GG has been called. And game number 7 going towards Minimo. What a close series. That is incredible. What a game. What a series. Best, or should I say, play all 7. It's been a journey. It's been such a great vibe. And probably one of my favorite series so far. And I guess it was very close. And looks like it does seem to be Aiken's favor, or Aiken's day, should I say, taking 4 games off of his opponent, or yeah, 4 games off of the Hudson Bay BIGS. So the current score is 4-3. I mean, what more do you need to say? That is just crazy, and that's also great for Minimoult because not only does Minimoult, or sorry, that's great for Aiken because Aiken is playing for the Mandarin Duck squad, which need a lot of victories, but also good for Minimoult because he's playing for the Hudson Bay BIGS, which also need victories as well. So both kind of doing their team a little bit of a, you know, a goody there, picking up those wins. And before we kind of start chatting too much, I do want to show you guys some stats because the game isn't quite over yet. We can of course see some of the stats in the late stage of the game. 18k for Russia, 21k for Brits. So I mean, not the craziest out booming going on here. Minimoult kind of forced to stay in his base till most of H2, expecting that strong H2 push from Russia, being idle as well, so not really doing the most here, and then also kind of running out of hunts, having to migrate quite a bit. And yeah, could have very much been towards Aiken's favor if he had played a little bit differently, done a few things a little bit differently, and you know, unfortunate fights for him. But both players just bringing their absolute best, and I mean, the playoffs are wild, and I can't wait till we see more playoffs because this is some of the best skill I've seen from, I guess, this tournament so far from these players, and you can just see both players just wanting to play the absolute hard out to the very end. 43 vills in the ending of the 13th, or the starting of 13th minute for the Minimoult side, versus of course the 30 villagers of Aiken. Just the raids coming in so clutch. 20, 19, 18, so 2 villagers dying there, another villager dying there, so 4, and then a huge raid over here, and kind of leading towards an inevitable defeat at the end. Just having a better eco, and there's also denying your opponent's eco. But what a beautiful game, and you're supposed to see the all resource count as well as, of course, the military unit. So 136 units for Russia, 65 musketeers, 121 for the British side, 46 longbows. But yeah, what a game, what a series, my lord. That was incredible. And I'm curious to see what you think about that series. What were your thoughts? Did you guys enjoy? Who said AoE 3 is dead? AoE 3 is reborn and has never been better. And you have to imagine there are more updates coming to Age of Empires 3. So if anything, this game is becoming a bee's nest, and it's going to start buzzing bzzz, like crazy, and a lot of wild things to come. So I'm going to be playing this game for the next year, months, so you'll see me around, and I hope you guys stay and play this game with me, and of course watch these incredible players play. Big shout out to Minimoult, what a game. Big shout out to Aiken, what a game, what players. And I hope you guys enjoy the show that these people put on for you in the best, or should I say, play 7. playoffs. So, great game and great day indeed. I hope you guys enjoyed the series. I will look to pass out on the floor, but nonetheless, it was worth it. I hope you guys enjoyed, of course, me casting those games. And yep, thank you so much for being here. I'm also going to go through some of the chat as well, see if I missed any messages, give a few shout outs before we head somewhere else. I do realize there's server maintenance at the moment. But yeah, big shout out to Meeman, Tormo, big shout out to Black G, big shout out to Bremhoke. Brilliant casting name. Thank you so much. It means a lot to me. Also, any feedback is kind of appreciated. I'm just trying a different things sometimes in terms of casting, and also kind of just learning a few things before each game, see if I can increase my knowledge. For example, the consular upgrades with India and stuff like that. So it really means a lot to me. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate all the positive words. You could be saying, I don't know which Civ to blame. Kaleli saying GG indeed. Big shout out to Part-Time Papaya. I love your name so much. Big shout out to you, Kitty, one of the best players in AoE3 at the moment. Big shout out to Passy99. If you guys want to see a good game, head over to some of the previous VODs, Passy versus Ungas. Some of the best games I've ever watched in my life. I know I overhyped that quite a bit, but you know, respectfully, I think these players are just incredible. So I'm a big fanboy. But for now, I'm going to head out, and I wish you guys a pleasant evening, and I'll see you guys real soon. And have a great day tomorrow. Hopefully you wake up and a bird lays a golden egg on your doorstep. All right, peace out. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.